And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, yeah.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. We got a great episode for you. Of course, we got a great guest, retired NYPD Deputy Chief Michael Marino. Mike Marino, you've been known to many as a man who was a cop's cop. Active retired NYPD members know exactly what that means. Law enforcement throughout the entire country. For a police enthusiast, that is an honor to be considered a cop's cop. So, Mike, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying retirement. Let's just start, ease into it. Just tell us where you grew up, a little bit about yourself, and what was so significant that made you want to become an NYPD cop.
I grew up in Brooklyn. I had a single mom. My dad took off on us when we were little. Never saw him again. He went out for cigarettes, and that was the end of that. I guess he's still looking. So it wasn't easy. Lived in East Flatbush. It was a working class neighborhood, mixed black, white, Spanish, but we were a lot of city workers, bus drivers, post workers, things like that, cops, firemen, and no discrimination because we were all equally broke. We all took care of each other, looked out for each other. You didn't really see color because you were all broke. Nobody had more than anyone else. We moved on later on. My mom remarried a very nice guy. My stepdad was a really great guy. Sorry that he didn't live long enough as he should have. Very good for my mom. And we moved to Flatlands in Brooklyn. And like everybody else at that age, you're 18, you want to move out and you want to get your own thing. So I moved in with a buddy of mine, which was an absolute riot. I'm surprised we weren't arrested and things like that because it was crazy. A lifelong friend of mine. Still talk to him. Know him since I'm 11. I got a job. I used to work on the loading docks, and then I got a job with what they called Interconnect. When Bell broke up, when they broke the monopoly, you had your own companies now, little private companies. I did all the big installs and all the corporate. I did Wall Street. I was 19. I had my own crew, had my own boss. I was my own boss, and then the job came up. I didn't like the job because I thought it was political. Like the bosses at night, these two bosses, the partners, they wanted to go out drinking. I didn't want to. They wanted to go out drinking. Then they'd all load up briefcases with bottles and go into the porn movies. I didn't want to do that. I had a girlfriend at home. I could do it. Why am I going to watch it on the screen, right? So you felt the pressure. I said, I want a job. I want a job where there's no politics. So of course I took the police department test. No politics, right? And I got on. I got on in the first class in November of '79. And I loved it.
That must have been a shock, Mike. No politics. What am I doing here?
Man, after a few months, first of all, you all think you're watching TV shows, right? And all that, shoot them up and chase them, bad guys, good guys stuff. And you find out the biggest enemy on the job is boredom. And then at that age, you're a young kid. I don't even know what I'm seeing. Like you're passing by stuff. I said, I get here after the crime's already happened. All I got to do is take a report. I said, they could get a monkey to do my job. Put a monkey in my uniform, just teach him to take a report because I didn't know how to see stuff. But I had a couple of good FTOs, and they taught us how to look for things and all that. But after a while, I did. I went back to the other job. I said, I think I want this job back because I took a big pay cut to take the police. I think my first year's pay was like $13,800 or something in the police department. And and of course, you had to pay for your own uniforms and your guns. And
Mike, what year was that?
1979.
Okay, if you can kind of give us a timeline also. It's interesting in the comparison. 13,000.
It was a little over 13. I think the top pay at the end of the year, the tenured cop, his W-2, which kind of included, average night diff, overtime and everything, was about 20 grand. All right. The sergeant's pay then was about $6,000 or $7,000 more. But went up in steps. Then it was like a three-year step up. So I wound up getting assigned up to the 2-8, which was a really busy place. and we were rocking and rolling all the time. I loved it. I loved it. We were having a blast. I wound up after 5 years. I took the first sergeant's test I took. I passed, which was you were kind of lucky in those days. They didn't give them every 2 years like they do now. Like I took the sergeant's test in '84. I think the previous sergeant's test was given in '72 because they had the layoffs. And as a matter of fact, around 1980 or '81, they started promoting guys from that list from '72 or '73. Because, they call guys back, everything froze. And in those days, everybody on the list didn't get promoted. They decided we need 800 sergeants. Whatever the 800th mark was, that was the cutoff. So you didn't die on a list, which I thought was better. I think it's really discouraging to have people die on a list. Like, how would you like to be the person that always misses it by 1 or 2 names? You either make it or you don't make it. If you're on the list, you're going to get promoted. And I think that's better. I think that's more incentive for people. It's, the bosses always, they talk about getting your people home safe physically in one piece. And they don't look at mentally, how's their mental outlook. So you were on the job. And every place you went, there was always like those guys where everything sucked. And they were always the bad cops. They weren't productive cops. I always thought they wanted to be and didn't know how to be, so they got bitter. The job sucked. It wasn't them. It was the job. But they go home. The job sucks. You suck. I suck. The world sucks. They go home. Their kids don't like him. Their wife hates him. The dog bites them. And they don't feel good about themselves. I don't think we spend enough time on that. Physically, they go home okay in one piece. But what about emotionally? Do they feel good about who they are? Do they understand the importance of what they do? The pride they should have? Because I always thought if you can make them feel better about themselves, they'd be better people, better husbands, better wives. Maybe our divorce rate would go down. Maybe we'd have less kids. Because you ever notice the cops' kids, there's a lot of drug addiction and kids getting arrested. I could tell you big bosses who their kids were always a problem. Yeah. They were invariably the big bosses that loved the jobs and were always at work.
So Chief, let me ask you. First of all, I just want to say, it's an honor to have you on here. A lot of people, when we promoted the episode, a lot of people reached out. They were very excited. There's going to be a lot of people on here today. George Misfud's on here today. He says he wants to let you know he's watching. He wouldn't miss for anything. Says there's no more like you in the NYPD, Patrol Borough Brooklyn North forever. So George, he texted me last night. He said he's big. You were his mentor. He loves you. And there was a ton of stuff like that last night. Could you just walk us through what your ethos was when you were a cop? What made you want to become, and what made you want to become a boss? Like, what was you were walking in the door every day. What were you doing? Like, what were you thinking? What was your head like before you went in, while you were at work? And like, what made you want to take that supervisory role?
Well, I always loved being a cop, number one. And I think, like when I was younger and I actually started NYU for pre-med, I was a pretty good student, but I just didn't have the money. Hi, Rob. There's Rob. How are you, Rob? So I guess maybe that's part of it. Maybe you want to do something. Maybe that's part of your nature. You like to help people, to take care of people, to fix things or whatever. So I love being a cop. And I was in a 2-8. And back in those days, there was no 18-month bill for detectives. There were white shields in the squad for 10 years, right? And I remember going to one of the classes or training things you went to, and here comes a chief came in. I don't even remember who it was. He comes in, big guy. He was in good shape. He had the hat with the scrambled eggs and stuff. And I was so impressed with him. And I said, I think I'd rather do that. And part of it is this. They did ask me to go up to the squad. And I didn't want to, because you're working in a radio car, right? And you hear the guys that aren't picking up the radio. And you're going, where's the boss? Because you can't do it. You can't go to that guy. You can't. We can't criticize each other. Our culture just doesn't allow it. So you go, where's the boss? Where's the boss? And you say, you know what? I want to be that guy. And it's kind of a natural progression. If you like working the street and you're on a radio car and you're making your collars and stuff, then you go up to sergeant, and then you're taking care of the squad. And then you go to lieutenant, you got a platoon, and then you go to captain, eventually you have and you can make life better for all of them. You could be the guy that fixes the things that annoy you so much, and take good care of your guys. I love my guys. So when I was a sergeant, I had a squad, but I was pretty much one of the only steady midnight sergeants. I didn't want midnights. CO came out, Henry Sattina. He was the guy that got in trouble in the Bronx. He was a CO at task force, and they put a pool on the roof. And I guess aviation saw it. So he got flopped to Brownsville, you know. And he said, thanks for volunteering for midnights. And me being a dumb Brooklyn thick-headed guinea that I am, so you got the wrong guy. No, you're not here. Thank you for volunteering for midnights. I go, sir, I didn't volunteer. It took about, he had to say like 6 or 7 times before it got through. Right? I said, oh, you're welcome, sir. And for the next 13 years, I did midnights through sergeant and lieutenant because you get used to it. It's a lifestyle. You have kids at home. You're with them every day. You sleep in 2 hours. I had 2 jobs for a while like the rest of us. And so I did midnights, but I still talk to those guys. And it's funny because they send me pictures. I was 5 years on a job when I made sergeant. When I got to the 7th, it was probably 5.5 years. I'm a young kid. I was 27 or something, 28. These guys were babies. So in my head, I still think of them that way. And they send me pictures like, those fucking guys got old. And then I look in the mirror and go, yeah, you did too. You know, you don't realize how time, but I still talk to those guys. I'm still close to them. From when I was a lieutenant, I still talk to some of the guys. So even with this thing, you know how many guys texted me last night? You know, oh, you're going to be on. Oh, you know, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So it's nice. That's touching that people remember you that way and that you affected people. But, you know, now, when you're being a sergeant, so people on our job do things for a couple different reasons. It's either devotion or promotion, right? That makes you. And then there's the guys that do it for overtime. And I never cared what people did it for, as long as you did it right. As long as you're working, I'm not going to question your motives. I love doing it. You did it for the right thing. Didn't care if I got promoted or not. Fucking, what's the big deal? Every rank I loved. They didn't give the tests over. And I think I was a sergeant 8 years because that was the one that got, that test got disputed. They started the B list and all that. I was a sergeant 5 years before I wasn't a provisional anymore, before I got my final list. I kept changing because 2 different lists, this, that. So, but I did love that. And then I did make the lieutenant finally in 92. I went to the 5th precinct, which I hated. I didn't want the 5th precinct. I wanted to stay in Brooklyn North. I wanted the 7-5 actually. They had an opening, but they said, they looked at my CCLBs and shootings and stuff, and they said, you're not staying in Brooklyn North. So they sent me to the 5th precinct. It's funny, the guy that got the 7-5 wanted the 5th. We each wanted what the other one had, but they wouldn't accommodate us because they didn't want to let me stay in you know, the rougher neighborhoods because I was a little bit, you know, over exuberant at times. And looking back, I realized there's things that I could have avoided, you know, but you're young, you think you're a warrior, right? And you're fighting the fight. So,
that's how we learn. That's how we evolve. That's how we grow. It
is. It is. Oh, look, Caesars Bay. Mike Scarlatelli. He was in the New York Sport Club over by Bay Parkway. How you doing, Mark? I remember all those guys. That's when I was, when I got separated. I had an apartment in Brooklyn. I used to train over there with the guys. Yeah, I got in trouble there too because I took my Category 1 car to the gym before I went to work. So somebody dimed me out. I think it was another cop there, because you throw your plaque in the window or whatever. And
it's always another cop. It's always another cop. It's never the public.
If it wasn't the cops, IAB would be out of a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think this guy actually
would be down 90%.
Yeah. You're right about that. Well, yeah, but you know, IAB is a necessary thing. Look at like Mexico, right? So down in Mexico, the police are that's it. They're the last authority. There's nobody looking over for that. They do horrible things. There's a retired cop from our job who went down there with his family. He's a great guy, too, big guy. He had younger kids. He goes down there, and on the beach, there's a woman who taking pictures of him and his kids, a local woman. He's like, taking pictures of my kids. They go in the elevator one day, and she's in there. He takes a picture of her, and he goes, now I got you. He was worried that they were going to take his kids because people disappear in Mexico. You don't hear about it. Well, the cop showed up at his apartment, dragged him out, beat the shit out of him. You had to see the pictures of him. And he had to give him like $2,000. So without a governing force, if we looking back at some of the stuff I was doing, and I was quick with my hands. It was a violent place, and people hate you, and you tend to hate back, and things get out of hand. They challenge you. You're the pride. First of all, we were the last resort. Courts didn't do anything, so you either dealt with it on the street or you left. You left the neighborhood. But looking back on it, without worrying about somebody that I might get in trouble, God knows what I would have done. I was a young kid, so you need that. Their problem is that from what I've seen with them and heard guys that work there, they, like the sergeants, they get their 40, 50 hours a month. If I'm leaving now, I got to go get going for overtime. Oh, you got cases? No, I'm just going to get my 50. And the detectives don't investigate anything, from what I understand. They get coffee and stuff. The sergeants do the investigation. Sergeants are calling detectives by first name. They're all in on it, So like when you work in a bad neighborhood and you're driving down the street and you see like a couple kids in hoodies and you automatically think they're bad guys because that's where you work and that's kind of what that's what you experience. I think they start looking at cops that way. I think they're there too long and they start looking at us as the enemy. Now, Butch Nisi was a lieutenant in charge of a detective squad in Brooklyn North. I think it was the 8-1. And Butch made captain. He was one of my XOs in the 7-5. He was a good cop. He was an anti-crime cop in the 7-5. He was one. I think our first week there, we went out. I was the CO. He was the XO. We made like 2 gun collars or something. He was a good cop. And they were trying to force him to go to IAB, either when he was a sergeant or a young lieutenant. He actually got sick. He couldn't do it. He said, I can't do it. I can't prosecute a cop. So then they gave him the traffic agents. He still couldn't do it. They had to let him out. So some guys can't do it. I think it is a necessary job, but I think you really got to pick people very carefully who you're going to put in charge of that. They have to be able to do the right thing. Right?
Mike, there's no doubt about it. You're getting so much love in these comments right now, and it far exceeds my expectations. I already heard the stories. I never worked with you personally, but I heard such great stories. Rob Lukash, former chief, he says, listen to this. I mean, this is awesome. Mike was the boss you wanted to be like, always understanding and supportive. If you wanted to be a good boss, Mike was the example to follow. I mean, Rob was a fellow chief himself. That's outstanding here.
I can't tell you how honored I am because, you're out a long time. And I have to tell you something. I left a little bit early because the surgeon that did the work on me, he was a Yankee team physician. He was going to do Derek Jeter and me the same day. Remember when Derek slid into third base in April, hurt his shoulder? And so we could do us both the same day. So he called me up and I got the good news, bad news. I said, what's the good news? Well, Jeter doesn't need the surgery. What's the bad news? You do. Yeah, I went. And since that was the good news. Yeah. So, but I guess that was like because my right arm had been paralyzed for about 9 months. Couldn't use it at all. And he gave it back to me. Great guy, Dr. Hershon, real doctor. So
what was that? Rotacuff injury?
Rotator cuff. And then I had, I messed something up here with a nerve in my neck. Also, I bit this in my neck. Right? What? No.
Was it from bench pressing?
No, it was tackling. When I was a lieutenant, it was tackling a guinea in Little Italy. And I forgot to tuck my head when I drove him into the ground and I popped the disc in my head. I forgot the foot, tuck your head.
Oh, yeah.
But that was like constant whiplash. That's when I did martial arts. I couldn't lift weights for 5 years, so I did martial arts instead. You got to do something.
You're damn right. Well, so you're getting there's a lot of love, and a lot of the love that you're getting is about your leadership style, right? So, and you spent a lot of time in leadership positions. So what would you say in your career? What were some of the toughest decisions you had to make in a leadership position, any position, whether it was chief or sergeant? What were some of the tough decisions, and why do you think you were so revered as a leader? Because you're getting so much love here.
Good morning, Tom. It's Tom Joyce. Thanks, Tommy, for teaching me everything about the detective squad, because I was such an idiot and I kept going upstairs and bothering you guys all the time. They were so patient. Him and John Cornicello.
Tom is a great guy.
I was a pain in the ass, and they taught me about crime scenes and investigative work. And they would actually tell me, go downstairs, we'll come down and tell you what you need to know when you need to know, and I'll leave us alone. And they would send me back downstairs to my office. Great guys. Thank you for everything, Tom. And your son's a good kid. I talk to him sometimes. Well, the thing about being a boss, number one, you see those guys that they get rank and they were never crime fighters or nothing. But then all of a sudden they are. Now they care about numbers because it's their ass. And they will be very derogatory to cops, which is almost like you're a bully, because the cop can't go back at you. You're going to suspend him, right? You really got to try not to lose your temper, not to curse at cops. I know I did a few times too. You can't help it. There was a couple of times I may have put my hands on cops, but they put their hands on me. But it's very important to remember that your responsibility. You can't be a bully. You got to care about them. You got to let them know you care about them. It doesn't mean they can do wrong things. If they do something wrong, you got to call them on it. You call them on it, and then it's over. It's done. Hard decisions. Mike Piggott. Mike was a lieutenant in the issue, and they tased that guy on the roll down gate, and he died. And there was a 2-star chief. I was outranked. I didn't want to. Ronnie, 2 bars. I didn't even want to suspend Mike. He didn't do anything wrong. Now, I was the first responding boss there. The first thing Mike said to me when I went there, I might get emotional. The first thing he said was, now Mike was always on the job. Mike was always there. Mike always did the right thing. He was unbelievable, right? And he said, I didn't come to work to kill somebody today. And it's not their fault. I ordered them, pointing to the cops. Okay. And what happened? A guy was up there. He was up on the thing, and he was naked, and he was waving a great big fluorescent bulb. So you see Mike. Somebody videoed this, and you could tell the story looking at it. Mike's talking to the emergency service guys and pointing. They were going to tase him, and he must have set it up so when they tased him, the cops ran in. They were going to catch him. He was on top of the roll down gate, so what is that, 9 feet up? They were going to catch him. This son of a bitch stiffened up like a javelin, put his hands to his side and launched himself out over the cops. We made a mark where his head hit, because you could see, because of the blood mark and everything. It was about 12, 13 feet out. He did it. He did it himself. And he's waving his big fluorescent bulb, and as you know, those things break the gas and everything in your eyes. And I think this is Mike's concern. Also, you saw the crowd, you could hear the crowd gathering, because whoever was taping this, you could hear the crowd. And now they're starting to get hostile towards the police. And the only ones there are Mike and his couple guys from emergency service. Nobody got in there yet. So you see him looking at the crowd. He's getting concerned. I got to get this guy down. This is going to go bad. Let me get him down, get him out of here. Boom, boom. So now we go in, and Mike is, so in comes a 2-star. And they want to suspend him. I said, suspend him. I said, for what? I said, I get it. I get it. This is going to be on the news and stuff. But if you knew Mike, and the guy says to me, well, what's the big deal? And as a matter of fact, I think the chief of IB said the same thing. What's the big deal? So we'll modify him. That's not a big deal. I says, no, not unless you've ever been modified. And you're a street cop. Taking a cop's gun and shield is the worst thing you can do to a cop. A good cop. Not a civil servant. There's cops and there's civil servants. Mike was a cop. And so they wound up just modifying him. And I said, well, we have to tell him. And the 2-star goes, why? I said, you're going to take a guy's gun and shield. You look him in the eye and you tell him why. That's why. You owe him that, because Mike didn't do anything wrong. And I told him that. And I said, Mike, look, do me a favor. We're going to send you to the field. You're going to train guys, teach guys, fix things, right? Be in your own element. Could you do me that favor, Mike? And we'll fix this. Because he would do you that favor. He was that kind of guy. Anyway, they sent him there, and so to punish him even more, they sent him down to Fleet in Queens. So they wouldn't even let him be with his guys. And so when his guys went down there to see him and support him, they threatened those guys with suspension. So they wouldn't even they took away everything. Then they sent, which I know, I've been hounded by the press, so I understand the embarrassment and all that. Your family, your friends, and everything. Now they go into his neighborhood, talking to his relatives and neighbors, and so you know what happened. Mike went to the field and he broke into a guy's locker and he killed himself, and he left a note. And from what I understand, that note said the same thing that he said to me. I didn't come to work to kill anybody, and it wasn't the cops' fault. I told him to do it, stand up right to the end. So now you go to his funeral, you know, and, you know, they weren't going to give him the truck, you know, the issue truck, the fight. They weren't going to give it to him. And I will say one thing, Chief Camadana at the time, he was head of ESU, and he went to Kelly, I guess. And he said, if you don't give him that truck, I'm resigning right here and now. So he did a good thing. And I saw him at the wake, and he was absolutely devastated, you know. I think it finally weighs on people sometimes. The things that we do to people and how we treat them can really impact their lives, you know. So I go to the wake, and there's Mike's two sons, and they were young boys. Man, you feel so bad for them. And he was really a good guy, Mike. Good father, good husband, good cop. He really was everything. And, you know, I said to him, you know, your dad didn't do anything wrong. You be proud of your father. And the two of them stood up like arrows. They were young. You're damn right. I mean, so proud of their father, you know. And man, it was horrible stuff. That was hard doing that. And then there was another cop. I mean, every day is hard because, you know, you get hit with decisions and you get angry. We're all human beings. You have to try to put yourself in the cop's shoes. Oh, you got minimum manning in the summertime, you know. You can't go below this. Meanwhile, your cops are doing everything you ask them to do. They're doing their enforcement. Crime is down. There's only really 8 weekends in the summer. They come to you on the weekend. They want off to be with their families. You give it to them. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to get yelled at in Comstock. So what are you going to do? You give it to them anyway because they're working for you. You know, you gotta let them know you care. You see them, and that they mean more to you than your next promotion. Because without them doing what they do, so we come up with good ideas, right? John, you're a lieutenant. You're going to be a captain. You come up with good ideas. You're going to fix things. Now you go and sell it to your guys. Well, if they don't do it for you, it's just a good idea that went nowhere. Everything you have is because the guys believed in you, and hi, Tabitha, how are you? Oh, you look so pretty. Look at her. Oh, you were like a young girl. Now you're all grown up. Look what happened to you. But they believe in you and they do what you ask. And if you can't stand up for them, one of the reasons that Campese hated me and got on me so bad and hounded me, when I had the 7-7, so I had a sergeant named Dave Cheesewright. I think he was Indian. We're not sure. After 9/11, we got him a hat that said, I'm not an Arab, because everyone thought he was. We had to clarify that for everybody. And one of the cops that worked for him, Al Grandstaff, was absolutely, I had great anti-crime. I had Charlie Broughton was a sergeant. Oh my God. I can picture the cops that came over. They were fantastic. Guns. I think Charlie's team, their personal best was 3 guns in one tour, 3 separate gun collars. But anyway, Dave and one of the cops that worked from Al Grandstaff, who I believe made Borsal first grade detective. Al was fantastic, quiet guy too, never said a word. And they were out on Franklin Avenue bothering the drug dealers like they're supposed to be. So they got a lot of CCRBs. So Campese and George Grasso was the first step. We're going to rail them, right? And I found out they were going to rail them because they had a lot of CCRBs. So I came in on the weekend. Over the weekend, I had all my guys help me. We pulled up all their data. The guys in the squad helped me. They ran everything for me. All the people that made complaints against them and their history, they were all drug dealers, gun guys, nobody, and nothing saying they hit me, they cursed me. I shouldn't have been stopped. I don't like being around. I was stopped. Nothing negative. So I bring all this down to the meeting, because in those days you were allowed to go down and sit with the PC, and Campese was there, and Grasso was there, and people from the borough, because I had the 7-7. My boss was there, Chief Canine, some of the inspectors were there. from the borough. And I make this case to Kelly. You're going to hurt these guys. I said, look at the people they're stopping. This is who they're supposed to be stopping. I says, you transfer them, you punish them, and you accomplish two negative things. What's that? I said, well, number one, you're telling the drug dealers and the gun guys, if somebody's really bothering them, all they got to do is make complaints, and the police department take care of their problem. And then they can deal their drugs and shoot people in peace. He goes, what's the second? I said, well, in every precinct, about 85% of the guys do nothing. You get 15, 20% of the guys doing the work. The guys that do nothing keep yelling at the guys that do the work. You're an asshole. If you work hard, they'll fuck you. You don't understand. They don't care. If you transfer them, you make those guys right. See, so you accomplish two negative things. So why don't you, maybe they are too long on the street. Maybe they are a little burnt. They did some hell of a job. I can't tell you. These anti-crime guys that I had, oh my God in heaven, 3 teams I had. Holy shit. Fantastic cops. And my ICO was John Garrity, who was in street crime. John was a lieutenant. He was one of the best cops and bosses I ever met in my life. A great street guy, administrative, perfect, great opinions. I was fantastic. So that's right, George. You used to come in. And you know why I came in, George? Because you let those guys start coming in later and later and later, and they were going to get in trouble. You can't do that. They would always take their meal in the first hour and a half and tack up. So they came in at 17:30. They wouldn't go out till 1900. But then what happens? Human nature is, and these are your best cops. So human nature is human nature, and after a while they're not coming in till 1900, and then they still want to take an hour and a half, and all IAB's got to do is sit there for a week, and they're going to get these guys. You got to take care of it. Like your bad kid that runs in the street. You can't let them do it. So going back to this thing, so Kelly actually agrees with me. And he goes, you know what, you're right. And Dave wanted to be an FIO sergeant, and Alan into the Ram. I said, you reward them for the work they did and tell them thank you. And we could let that be known. This is you work hard. The job does care. You can get stuff, Give guys incentive to be good cops rather than, I remember guys making boss and their first order of business was to get off the street. I can get in trouble on a desk. The street's where you're supposed to be. And it's where you go to teach the younger guys, right? And girls, teach them to get benefit from your experiences and stuff, right? So anyway, he gives them that. So now I walk out. The Chief Kineen, God bless him, he lives in Marco Island. He became like an older brother to me. He's still doing great. I think he's going to be November 8th. He's either going to be 80 or 81. Still playing golf, still laughing. I don't know how he's laughing with the stuff he's been through in his life, but he manages to do it. Great guy, great boss. But we walk out, and now we're in the little hallway on the police commissioner's floor outside the conference room, and Campese comes up to me. I had never said 2 words to this guy. I knew who he was. He goes, you go fuck yourself. I go, what? He goes, you take your fucking victory and leave before he changes his mind. And he walks away. I said to Kineen, and Kineen was much more politically astute than I was. I didn't care about politics. I really didn't give a shit about it. I probably thumbed my nose at it too much, which got me in trouble a little bit because you went the other way on purpose. Fuck you and your politics. But he goes, Mike, do you know what you just did? You just cut his balls off. The commission, he wanted to rail them, and the commissioner agreed with you. You're done. He's never going to forget this. You're done. And he was right. He hounded me forever after that. As you, John, you know what that feels like. Eric, you know what that feels like to be hounded like that. Yeah. And all you're trying to do is your job and take care of your guys. What's the big deal? I took care of my guys. That's what I'm supposed to do. And it was the right thing to do. It wasn't even like they did something wrong, like a certain chief that's retiring soon that murdered a man. But they actually never did anything wrong. They were fantastic. Not once have they complained about cursing at anybody or hitting somebody or anything like that. So, but that was tough. And then there was a kid, when I was in the 7-5, I was a chief, and there was a young kid, I'll never forget. He was a rookie, I think, in the 7-9 NSU or whatever they called it back then. And I get a call. This kid, I guess he was driving by Queens Boulevard there, by the big shopping mall, Macy's and all that, Cross Bay Boulevard, and he hits a girl with the car. She had a guitar on her back. I remember that. He hits her and he panics and leaves. And he calls his delegate or a delegate. And the guy must have called the precinct and found out there's no report of anything. So he says to him, don't worry about it. There's no report. Wrong advice. It was an accident. As luck would have it, it's on camera and they get his plate. No plate's registered to a girl, so they go to the house and knock on the door. Is this your car? Oh, yeah. Where is it now? Oh, my husband has it. He's a cop. He's going to work. So he's on probation. So you're sitting in front of this guy. Hey, Chucky, good morning. There was a good cop. Oh, by the way, the chief tried to get rid of him when he had about 30 years on the job. He was a guy in the borough doing everything he was supposed to do. The guy you could depend on, shut his mouth, knew everything, knew everyone. And they tried to fuck him for no reason other than because they could.
Mike, before you continue, I just got a question. Do you still have this Hawaiian shirt? Because Greg Gordon and Mike Smith, I spoke to Mike Smith. They wanted to make sure that they give you a big shout out. They love you, but they said that you showed up one time with sweatpants and a Hawaiian shirt. You still have that shirt?
Probably somewhere, yeah. Probably. But I think it's a Kona Gold or something. There's a marijuana, Hawaii marijuana or something. But now this poor cop, he's sitting there crying. He's a kid. His wife's a school teacher. He's crying. Am I going to be all right? Am I going to be all right, Chief? And then, no, you're not. The girl died, and he left the scene. And he got bad piece of advice. You're an older person, whether you're a boss, a delegate, or just an older cop. It's an accident, kid. Go back. Tell him you didn't realize, you got scared, but I came back. And we could have saved his career. And he's crying. And the saving grace was he had no children yet. His wife was a school teacher, and he was a young guy. He could go on with his life. But you're hugging the guy. He's crying, and you can't make it better. You try to make things right for people, and you can't. That was a tough one. I remember that. Poor kid crying. Help me. I can't help you. There's nothing I can do for you. So shame.
So
no,
keep going. I thought you were done. No, keep going.
No, I am. Go ahead.
No. So I was gonna say. So you said Campese came after you. So something that's like widely accepted now is the use of TRT,
yes.
Right? Testosterone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
You were doing that a while back before it was acceptable for the job, and you were targeted because of that.
Well, I'll tell you.
Could you just walk us through that?
I sure will, and I'll tell you how accepted it is now. The sheriffs down here in Collier County, they go on company time to get it. Okay, it's allowed. Okay, what happened was I was always a gym guy. Ferrigno's gym back in Brooklyn back in the day, and I was hardcore gym. Never touched anything. I was a skinny kid. I took 2 beatings one night on a holiday post by Macy's by the same guy. I was 159 pounds when I came on. I was a runner. So I'm on my little foot post, and there's an African-American gentleman, probably in his 40s, breaking into a car. I grab him. He beats the shit out of me to the point where he broke my name tag when he stepped on it. All right. And the only reason we managed to collar him was because I wouldn't let go of his ankle. So he's walking down a block like dragging me. I won't let go. I'm like a pit bull. And some other cop came. And now we go into Midtown, and I am so embarrassed, man. And, the cops really weren't laughing at me or nothing, but they were looking at me like they felt bad for me. I'm so embarrassed. I'm a kid. I'm 22, 23. And he's in the cells, and he's giving me shit. Man, that's it. He goes, yeah, you wouldn't give me a fair one. I said, that's it. I take off my gun belt. I go in the cell with him, and he beats the shit out of me again. Twice in one night. So I said, boy, I better muscle. At least you're honest. No. I said, boy, I better muscle up. So I started lifting weights, and I'd gone up to the 2.8, and there was a guy up there, Ray Pradas. He was a black guy, worked foot post. He was older, juiced to the max. This guy, beautiful body. He was unbelievable. And he took a liking to me, and he would work out with me. He never talked too much, but, we did that. Then I joined the gym in Ferrigno's. I used to go with my brother, Steve, who wound up being a sergeant on the job. He was always in great shape, Steve. He was like that 13-year-old little chubby guy, and he started lifting weights, and he never looked back, very disciplined. So when I Now, I think, and as it turns out now, this was probably all from 9/11. I didn't realize it at the time. When I got to 7.5, I was always very confident. I always, trusted my decisions. And now I get to 7.5, and some days I was like, I wasn't sure of myself. So I talked to Tony Izzo, and he had the 7.5, two commanders before me. And he said, well, it's like a roller coaster ride, that place. And you're on the first car, just put your hands up in the air and scream. He goes, you're going to have your ups and downs. But I couldn't sleep. I couldn't concentrate. I put on a lot of weight. I went up to like 250. I used to read all the time, and I almost had like almost total recall. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't sleep. My heart was bothering me. I felt like I was getting kicked in the chest. I didn't know what was wrong. So I went to have my heart checked, and they said, no, you got the heart of like a 25-year-old. So I went to a doctor. I went to a doctor, and he takes a blood test. And he goes, I think I know what's wrong with you, but I'm going to wait for the results to come back. So I said, okay. So I go back to him in 2 weeks, and he says, how do you feel? I said, I don't feel good. He goes, Mike, your testosterone is 50. I'm surprised you can walk. And okay, now what do? He goes, well, you go on this replacement therapy. And I'm going, is that legal? Because we all knew guys in the gym. I mean, I could have got steroids anytime I wanted in the gym. Everybody was on them. These guys are dying left and right from this shit. It's dangerous. They're blowing up like balloons. But I know it's not the job. You can't do illegal, drugs. I wouldn't do that. Like I wouldn't smoke pot or do cocaine. I wouldn't do that. Perfectly legal, all prescriptions. Everything was in my name. Credit card, because it's not cheap, and I didn't have money. I could have paid cash and used a different name. I didn't. I'm not doing anything wrong. So, started feeling better, and then what happened was, the Albany DA was a guy named Soares, and he still is. He's still there. Soares. And they were doing an investigation. There was places in Florida. If you partake of this therapy, you're supposed to have a face-to-face with a doctor. You're supposed to have corresponding blood tests. They do a clinical diagnosis of you. Well, there was a place in Florida, and the baseball players were involved. And they were just sending it. Like you'd fill out an internet form, and they would send it to you wherever in the country. So they were looking at that. So you had a guy in IAB at the time, Danny Carrion, who gets wind of this. He figures, well, he was actually after one cop, one black guy that he hated, he was after. But he contacts the Albany DA to get a copy of their client list. Now, that's an felony. Him soliciting it and them giving it to him. If you're part of a grand jury, there's only two reasons why somebody else can get information. They're either part of that grand jury investigation or a judge signs an order. In any event, it can't be used to go in any other direction than what that grand jury is going in. So he gets this, and he sees the names. And, hi, Mike, how are you? You look good, Mike. God bless you. So he does it. So he gets his bag of shit together. He brings it to the fire department. They tell him, fuck you, you got nothing. These guys, it's a doctor's prescription, a registered doctor, registered pharmacy. He goes to sanitation. They tell him, go fuck yourself. He went to, what the hell is Jerry's last name? He was one of Carrick's guys, but he was in charge of the Bergen police. He went to him, Jerry Speziale. He went to him. Jerry said, fuck you. And now he goes to Campese, who we eat our own. To this day, and thank God bless Chris Monahan with the CEA and the other union leaders that they finally got the job to allow guys to sign up for the World Trade Center. Eric, I was talking to John about this before you came on. We were fighting it. Guys that are sick and dying were fighting it. But like it's our money, your money. But so he brings this to Campese and they do it. And they asked me to sign a HIPAA release. And that's what I said, Mike, don't do that. And I said, but Chief, I did nothing wrong. I did it. So they had all my records. Everything was out front. I took their blood test. They came in and shaved my leg. Poor Terry Curran. Terry's one of the cops that worked for me in his 7-3. He looked like a little cherub, a little altar boy, a little Irish altar boy. And so did his wife. They had 13 kids. Their family car looked like a church van. Anyway, Terry's the guy that comes in to shave my legs for hair. And he felt so bad. He said, Terry, just do your job. He does. And I passed their drug test. My levels aren't elevated, right? So my lawyer goes, that's it. They got to drop the charges now. I said, no, you don't get this. This is their ballpark. So he went to the trial room. And in the beginning, it was a termination case. And in those days, our pension wasn't locked. So I lost everything, my whole life. I said, no, I did nothing wrong. I'm not. I told Kelly that I would agree to a no-law plea to make it go away because he promoted me chief. I felt the loyalty to him. I said, but I'm not pleading to something. I didn't do anything wrong. They got pictures of me my whole life. They got pictures of me to see if I was ever this big jacked up guy. I never was. I was a big guy because I always worked out, but I wasn't one of these, steroids. Like you look, oh shit, that guy's on steroids. When my kids were little, I was fat because I couldn't go to the gym so much. You go through different things in your life. So halfway through the trial, the judge, the trial commissioner, Karapnik, asks the prosecutor, the department advocate, is this still a termination case? Hell no, I was not, Mr. Prendergast. So you're right about that, Tommy. He was a good man. Break my heart for the rest of my life. So, and the job did it to him, and they didn't have to. Those fucking assholes, they were afraid of their own. I'll tell you another story about what happened after that. So she said, is it still a termination? He asked, is it still a termination case? And she said, no. And I turned around to my lawyer. I said, we just lost. He goes, what do you mean? I go, I won't be able to sue them unless I can show a loss. We just lost. It's not a termination. They realized that their case wasn't as strong, so it's not going to be termination anymore. And sure enough, I lost. And we had, through the course of the trial, Carry-On perjured himself on the stand. His detectives gave completely different versions than he did. He tells them how he stumbled onto my name. It wasn't the client list that he illegally got. And the guy who gave it to him was forced to resign. When we made a complaint to SOURCE, the investigator who gave him that list had to resign after that, immediately afterwards. He says he went to the doctor's office, and I get this, and he looks over the desk, and there's papers with a patient name, and it was my name. Who? It just had to be lying there.
So there's no HIPAA law. The job doesn't care about that, right? No HIPAA.
They didn't give one shit about it.
That's a fucking huge HIPAA violation right there.
Well, look, when they gave my name was in the paper and my medical condition was in the paper. And when they did the search warrant, Carry-On was there. When Albany went there, he was there, and so was the press. So who do you think notified the press? Him. And he got his face on the paper. Because as he told the doctor, this goes in so many different directions, I'm going to be moving around. They went in and they were, during the trial, they investigated the doctor, right? And everybody that was using it for the wrong reasons, there was a huge, voluminous response from why he was doing it, what the guy, When he got to Mike Marino, he goes, very short, which was the only one. He goes, Mike Marino was a model patient, and what he was doing was medically necessary. Now, all of this was taped. So when I wanted to hear a copy of the tape, we don't have it. What do you mean you don't have it? Well, when we got back to the IAB, we found out the recorder wasn't working. What do you mean it wasn't working? You tested. We've all been through these investigations. They tested right there. Well, then you vouchered the recorder, right, to show us, no. Where is it? We don't know. Where's the tape? We don't know. It was just, and the reason was the doctor got in touch with me afterwards when it was all over. He goes, Mike, when I asked him why he was after you, because you really didn't do anything wrong. He goes, some of those guys they were abusing, and it's true. He said, because if I can get a chief scalp on my tent, I can get promoted. That was his answer. And when Kelly called me up to tell me that he was going to substantiate the guilty plea, I lost it. I had a meltdown. And I told him that. And he goes, he said that? I said, yeah. And you're supposed to protect us against guys like this. And you promoted him. Good job. He got what he wanted. Good job, Commissioner. You did a great job. I was really hurt, because I loved the job and I gave it a lot. You do your extra hours and when you're off, you go in, your guys need help, you go there, the community, the whole bit. But what did Kelly say to me? What am I going to say to those other guys that pled guilty? I said, I have nothing to do with them. And they kept trying to show a connection. They did all of our phone records, which by the way is illegal. They did all the phone records. They were trying to show, I didn't know these guys. Did you go to this gym in Brooklyn?
Do you know do you know what they said to get the administrative subpoena? Because normally
yes.
they
possible criminality, which is what the FBI just did to the 8
What a
Republican
scam.
senators, right? But here's a kicker on that. I didn't know a lot of stuff until later on. I mean, I still have my box of shit. I reported the perjury and everything to Kelly and Campisi, and matter of fact, I would write Kelly letters later on when I was still working. You know, what's the status of the case? Because I know I reported this corruption to you, and I know you're going to be you know, investigating it. But I couldn't stop kicking the can. I couldn't. He hated me at the end. I couldn't stop. I couldn't help myself. But this is how they get subpoenas. Now, the squad would be mad at you if you ended that, because they get it too for good reasons, right? But you're not supposed to be able to use it in an administrative or civil trial because you got it for possible criminality. So they say possible criminality, and then when they get it, they use it. So that's illegal to use that in the trial room, and they do it anyway. But it didn't matter because I never had any communications with any of these guys. I didn't know them. I mean, I knew the one kid, Etienne. He was in the 8-1 maybe, or 8-3. Huge black guy. He competed. I mean, I knew him because he was one of my guys. I remember going on a job with him, and you had to go through the hatch in the floor in the bodegas. He barely fit. And the sweetest guy you ever met in your life. I mean, the sweetest, kindest, gentle guy. I don't think you ever heard of fly this guy. But, you know, they found me guilty, and that was the end of my career. So I was going to work one day. I was on Ocean Parkway, and Gianelli called me. He was chief of patrol. And he goes, Mike, Chief Giamonti, God rest his soul. He said he's retiring from Staten Island. You're going to get your second star, and I'm leaving next year. You're going to be chief of patrol. I said, oh, you know, thanks, boss, you know. And 2 or 3 days later, I'm almost in the exact same spot going to work. And he calls me, he goes, Mike, this thing with the steroids, Kelly says you're done. I said, well, it's a good thing I didn't send out the invitations to the party, you know. So, but that was it. But that was okay. I was a one-star chief. I had a great job. I got to go out, see my guys. Some of my favorite things was getting called at night on a police incident. You go out in the summertime, and you're having coffee with the guys, and you get to talk to them, and you learn who they are and who's got a problem, who's got a sick kid, who's this, who's that. And, you know, it's a nice thing to be able to talk to your people like that in those situations. And, of course, the guy that got involved with the shooting, well, he's scared to death. You know, he thinks he's going to jail. And so you take the delegate and you walk the route, and you can kind of figure out, looking at the shells and stuff, this is what I think happened. This is what I think happened, you know. And I'd go through it. And then you go and tell the cop, he goes, yeah, that's it. You know, you'd help them because, you know, you get involved in a shooting. Sometimes your head ain't clear. I saw guys that shot armed guys, blazing shootout. And they're going, I didn't know he didn't have a gun. What do you mean he didn't have a gun? There's the gun. Because you get fucked up. You do. You get fucked up. So everybody's not the same. Everybody doesn't stand there like a piece of granite. It's not like TV. You're fucked up. But I love going out. One-star chief, and you got to accrue time. Once you make 2-star chief, you can't accrue any more time, you know. So I got to, it was all right. And terminal leave days and stuff like that. And you kept, listen, I love going to work. I was a chief. Who the fuck was better than me? You go in when you want. You go home when you want. You know, you do your paperwork. You go out on the street, go out with your guys. The guy Chuck, who just sent from the bar, we would go out sometimes. I like Chuck. He was an older guy. He had a good head on his shoulders. We go out and do stuff. You know, you see your people. You go to the commanders, try to talk to them. You know, what are you doing about crime? Maybe you could do this, that. What can I do to help you? The unions in Staten Island were great guys. They'd come to my office like once every few weeks. This guy needs this. They tell you what problems. You know, can we help him or her? And then always at the end of it, what can we do for you? Is everything all right with you? The guys doing the right thing? They worked with you, you know, which was nice. Some of the union guys, they were a little more hostile, and they didn't need to be because there's no reason for that. But that was pretty much a tough thing. Now, years later, I go to an endocrinologist in Staten Island. I'm still having problems. So he does all the tests on me, and he goes, yeah, your body's not making a lot of what it should be making. They think it's my pituitary from 9/11. Like, you hear my voice is all messed up. My heart got messed up. Get it, chief. Get it, chief. So he says to me, you need to, he goes, I'm going to recommend you go on testosterone and growth hormone. He goes, because your body's not making any. And he goes, I can't get your growth hormone. He goes, nobody can. It's you can get it. I said, so then he can't get it. He goes, if I were you, I'd go on the black market and get it. I go, Doc, he's a big guy. He said, Doc, I can get arrested for that. And you don't know what you're getting. And it's dangerous. They want to give you too much. They tell you got to take this much. You got to look at your own body and how you feel. I would take less than what they would tell me because I was afraid. I had friends that were dying from that shit. Hearts, and guy 19 years old, heart surgery, cancer, all kinds of shit. So that was his suggestion that I do that. And he said, they ruined your career over this. So I go, yeah. He goes, man, he's shaking his head. He goes, holy shit. And now today, you can get the stuff over the counter almost, right? That's how it goes. But that was Campese. So he was angry at me. He wasn't going to go.
Mike, I can tell you, I can listen to you all day. I love your stories. And the reason why is because there's no doubt about it. It's authentic. It's real. You can tell that you're honest, you're transparent. And what I love best, and I see the comments still coming in, the love, because every time you talk about something, you mention the guys before you mention yourself. I don't even have to ask. I know you're a true leader besides what you're telling us, but the fact that you put your guys in front of you, that's what I always say. That's a real leader that puts that truth first.
You better be out there with them. You go out on the street a little bit on patrol and you see a guy, say run a light or whatever, you do a car stop. You give the summons. Yeah, I can go to traffic court. I got to call a cop all the way over there. By the time he gets here, I could have the summons given out. I don't mind going to traffic court. You make a collar, you put your handcuffs on the guy. If say it's a gun collar, like I said, with Butch Nisi, we weren't going to take the collars. So you ask a cop to take it, but don't tell him you found a gun, because too many guys do that. That's perjury. I don't mind going to court. I'll go with you. All right. Worst come to worst, you're on overtime, you buy me a burger and a beer. But I'm going to court. I made the collar. I just can't really take it. So you tell him. And then the DA, here's my cell, the DA would call you and stuff like that. Never ask your guys to prove their loyalty by putting their career on the line. And a lot of bosses will do that, which is fucking wrong. Shit.
Mike, with that being said, I mean, there's no doubt about it. You talk about how great you guys are, and they were awesome. And you speak about the guys before yourself. And I can tell right now, there's no doubt about it with the comments that guys wanted to work for you because of the man you are, because you're a leader. You realize you care about your people, not just a manager. So with that being said, at the height of your career, when you were chief, there was a lot of pressure for the NYPD when it came to stop, question, possibly frisk, and a lot of pressure when it came to summonses. So was there a legitimate quota, or is it just a myth?
I testified in that trial, in that federal trial. Okay, you have to understand what the laws of quotas and what they are and why they were there. If you're working 4 to 12s and your wife's a school teacher on working days, and I tell you, Eric, you got to get me 10 red lights every day, right? It's hard to do that. We know it takes hours to do that, right? Because you're not going to TIG everybody, what's going to happen is you're going to feel so pressured to keep what you need for your family that you're going to now not be going to 911 jobs and not looking for criminals because you're pressured to do that. Those are the quota laws. And at the time, they only applied to parking summonses. See, the rest were not. That was the law at the time. So you have to try to find a number. Hey, Norm, how are you? How's your brother? So you had to figure out what the needs of the community were, what met the needs of the community without stretching you guys too tight. You couldn't put them under that pressure. They're under enough pressure as it is. They don't make enough money. It's stressful on the street. The job doesn't always back them up. You sometimes they're stretched like a piano wire, and you stretch a piano wire too far, it's going to break. So you got to make it workable. You got to make it achievable. Any goal you give guys has to be achievable, and then you tell them why. why I need this and where I need it and what we're trying to achieve. And don't just get me numbers. You get guys who say, you got to give me 3 C summers a month. They'd see one guy drinking a beer, so they'd get him for drinking in public, open can, and littering because he threw it down when he saw them. I'm done for the month. Well, what's the result of that going to be? So that means he or she, because they were one of my commands, which was the culture there was very bad, and it had been allowed to fester for too long. They did not like the community. They didn't even like each other. Like the 4 to 12 wouldn't help the Daytors print their prisoners on the print scan thing. I would go out and help. Why are you doing this? Well, because they're backed up. I mean, I'm doing nothing. Let's do it. But what's the result of that? So if I give all my summonses within 3 or 4 days, I hit my number, and to a man, woman, and child, over 600 of them didn't give anything more. They all gave exactly the same. What are the odds of that? That means that you're driving by stuff and ignoring it because you hit your number. So who's got the quota? You and me. You won't go above it. You do the job until the job is done. And everything you do is supposed to have an effect. I don't want you giving a C summons to get a number. The whole idea for us is to correct bad behavior. So if you stop a guy, I stop a guy going through a light, and he's a decent guy. And oh shit, I'm late picking up my kids. I'm so sorry. I don't think he's going to do it again. I don't have to give him a summons. I achieved my purpose. I corrected bad or dangerous behavior. When you get the guy going through the light to Staten Island, Guinea, right? Fuck you. What the fuck? Why don't you go stop a real crime? And he's driving daddy's, $150,000 BMW. Maybe he needs one because and I've seen it where they kill people. And one of the cops, he went there and he's looking. It's a bad scene. An ambulance driver died, everything. And the cop was like a big, tall black kid. I forget his name. He's a good kid. And he's all shooken up. I said, what's the matter with you? He goes, my wife is a nurse. She drives home this way every day. He goes, now I understand, why. But it's just to correct bad behavior. You don't always have to put handcuffs on people. It's like being a boss. You don't have to write a cop up, right? Maybe Joe Pollock, when I was in the 5th, God rest his soul. Joe went to Denver and he wound up dying from COVID/9/11 stuff. He was a wise ass. He was an older guy. He gave me shit at roll call, embarrassed me in front. I was a new lieutenant. So I put him on a Brooklyn Bridge for 3 nights in the wintertime and scratched him every half an hour. In 2 days, he came down. I surrendered in front of the whole world. I surrender, you win, You don't have to write people up. I corrected, and then we respected each other after that. You understand each other. So, but the numbers I asked these guys for, and it was one of the busiest precincts in the city. What did I ask them for? I asked them for, I think, 4 Parkers. Was it 3 Parkers, 2 movers, and 2 C summonses a month? That's it. And a couple of 250s. But I want you going to the right places, stopping the right people, stopping bad guys. Because I would run the 250s, the squad would run them and see who these guys were and then who they hung with and what they're doing out there. We use it as a tool, not as a performance indicator, but as a tool. Everything you do is supposed to have a purpose. But if you tell your cops this generally and explain to them, a lot of them will buy into it. They understand what you're doing. And if you tell them, they'll come back to you and give you better ideas. Oh, that plan you did, and the sergeants too, all the people on the street, lieutenants, the details, hey, is it working? And they'd say, yeah, but you should change this. Or on paper, that look good, but do that. Listen to them. Let them have input. And everybody works together. That's all. Was there a quota? The judge ruled I had transferred 15 people out. I did 2 years of evaluations and interim evaluations, talked to them, counseled them, and told them this would happen because there's a procedure in place, but it's a lot of work. And 15 got transferred out. And the judge ruled that I did set performance standards for them. It didn't constitute a quota, and that the transfers were legitimate. So she kind of like split the baby, She gave them something, gave me something. The case in court, the federal case with the 250s, the reason why the job lost that, right? Okay, you're working on a SNU team. You're up in the OP, right? You see the hand-to-hands, and you're putting it over. and they grab that guy. If the guy doesn't have drugs, you do a 250 to cover your stop, right? If the guy has drugs, you do the 250. Most don't. I don't need it. I got the collar. Same thing with a gun collar. You think you see a bulge. You see a guy running down the block with a gun in his hand. You don't need a 250. You see the gun. He's under arrest immediately. The bulge, you stop him. They don't do the 250. I asked my SNU teams to do that, my anti-crime teams to do that, because when they looked at the numbers, all these 250s, and then compared to arrests, the number was so low that the judge concluded your 250s are useless. You're just stopping people to stop them. Otherwise, you'd have more arrests. So because we weren't doing things the right way, we get lazy. We go for expediency. I want to do my paperwork down to court and everything. The bosses are breaking your balls. Finish your collar. There you go, Ronnie. Oh, you caught that, Ronnie. Good for you, Ronnie. It wasn't so subtle. And neither was the fact that he had cops doing car chases for paper plates, thereby putting their lives in danger so he could look good on a Twitter. When you tell the cops they can't chase, they chase and do stupid shit. Now you tell them they're allowed to, they're going to be killing themselves. Stupid. Didn't give a shit about his own cops, asshole. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to curse on the
Mike, tell us how you really feel.
That's it's my inner voice. I hate when that guy shows up. The angry
Mike,
white
you're
man
in good company right here. I don't disagree when it comes to fat triple necks.
but so that case was lost, and with the cops being, they're getting their balls broken. I remember bosses yelling at cops, "Come on, you're on overtime. I'm going to have to answer for this." Is he legit? Is he dogging it? Is he like, no, he's legit. He earned his money. Go fuck yourself. It's not his fault. It's just, this is the process. And you're his boss. Sign the paperwork like you're supposed to. Breaks your balls, or you get the big bosses. Get called out to a police shooting, and they are pissed.
When did you testify? That was 2008?
It may have been 2010.
Okay.
It may have been, or 9, something like that. Yeah, whatever the judge was Shinlin.
I think it started 2008. Yeah, so it's probably 2010 he testified. Yeah.
Hi, Jimmy. Yes, we remember your Uncle Jimmy Fat Joe. He was the guy, the administrative guy in the back that everybody hated, the captain's man. But he would come in on his own time every day to process the overtime so that the guys because in those days you got paid 2 months later, the last paycheck of the month. And Joe knew how important that was for the guys. So he would come in on his own time every morning early, an hour and process that overtime for the cops. They didn't know how much he loved them because they all abused us. He was also the training guy. He got the shit kicked out of him every day. The training, they curse you, throw shit at you and all that. He was a great guy, Jimmy, and he taught me a lot too. So, and you were good too, Jimmy. So you got treated the way you worked. And I know you did well, Jimmy. I've been following your career. Yeah, we lost that.
So Mike, you testified in there. It was reported that you testified. You said, I went out every day and I found it hard not to see crime.
Yes.
Right. And I think we all agree with that. So how do you? What would be your advice to sergeants, lieutenants, captains, people out there on the street today that want their cops to actually partake in the core mission of policing, which is to protect and preserve life?
I tell you what, I hate to say this because I always tell guys you do your job regardless, because everybody always had complaints. Your job doesn't back you up. The judges let them out on the street. Yeah, but look in the mirror now. You have to do your job. You swore to do it. And if you believe in it, and that kid on the street that got shot in the head, right, in the middle of it, it has nothing to do with the money you get or the judges or you going to the trial room. And I worked in mostly poor neighborhoods, and all they had was the cops and the firemen, when they had fires, but all they had was the cops. Nobody came. The landlords didn't come. The city agencies, all they had was us. We broke the rules, pick up old ladies, take them to the A&P, pick them up 2 hours later, carry their bags in, fix their houses, help them discipline their children, because they had nothing else. So you tell me, because you didn't get the extra dollars you want, that kid should get shot in the head. Well, that person going to work for $8 an hour, their shitbanger car got stolen, and they don't have insurance, right? Because it's, 20 years old, that it's okay. It's not okay. You tell me when a child dies from fentanyl, because in Staten Island, I would go out to a lot of the parents' houses when a kid died, and you see their pain. And you know what you feel? You feel so sorry you didn't do your job better because it's your job. And now they're feeling this pain. So you have to do a gut check. And what are you here for? I mean, you ain't here for the money. None of it. I do okay now with my pension, thank God. But for most of my life, I was the asshole amongst all my friends. I was making the least amount of money. And I was working all the holidays and working overnights. And the only way you saw your kids was you didn't sleep. You gave up your health and everything so you could kind of balance everything out. So, but today, I'm sorry to say this. So I was the XO in Staten Island. I get a call from, he was either chief or PC at the time, I forget what. And this is after the Eric Garner thing, which, by the way, Danny Pantaleo did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. I went through that tape. I talked to John Miller. We'll talk about that in a minute. Nothing wrong. I'll tell you what a great cop he was, too. How much influence does City Hall have on the police department? Well, if you got to ask me that, you're not much of a detective. That's all I got to tell you, Don. So, that's a silly question. But I get a call, and this way after the Garner thing, they said, oh, that's it. No more. We're going to be declining agenda police department. No more summons. You don't have to arrest people, this and that, right? Fine. That looks great in the papers. But under the table, no. So I got the call. You tell your guys they better start working more. Or I'd come back. Tom, I'd come back in a hot second. I'd move back. Or I'd come up Monday to Friday every week. I'd come back in a second. You tell them to start working or they're going to get transferred. And the bosses too. I don't want to mention the guy's name. Although another fucking Irish guy. I hate those fucking Irish guys. So I said, if you hurt one of my cops or one of my bosses, I'm going to give a press conference and blow you out of the fucking water. You can't do this. You can't. They sent a videotape out to the roll calls. I think it was the chief of patrol of the police commissioner telling them, if your bosses ask you for any numbers, you call me personally. What do you think they're going to do after that?
They shut down.
Well,
I remember that.
But you told them they could. So you tell them publicly to make yourself look great. And then you're going to punish them or punish their bosses? It's their boss's fault that you did that? I said, I will give a press conference. I'll blow it all up. I know where all the bones are buried. I'm going to give everybody up. Fuck it. I don't care. So I'm leaving anyway. I don't give a fuck. Because they called me when I went to the medical board. That surgeon that did the work on me was trying to get me off since like 03 or something every year. But I kept fighting him. Listen, I still go to the gym. I'm fine. I pick and choose where I go, But it got to a point where my right arm, there's a lot of nerve damage and nerve loss. And he said, Mike, it's not dependent. I'm like, what do you mean? I go to the gym. At that point, I was benching like 295. He goes, yeah, but if it hurts, you don't have to. You could stay. But he goes, at the gym, he goes, but if you're on the street, you can't control when it goes. And it would go dead. It would spasm and go dead. And I was so tired of Campese beating me up. It got very clear to me that it wasn't going to stop. I mean, I would come out of my house and there was GPSs under my category 1. I would take them off and put them under a taxi cab and follow that for a while, you bastards, because they were magnetic. They weren't going to stop. No matter what I did, they were just going to keep hammering me. So I went in front of the medical board in March, and I was just running my time because I had like 2.5 years on the books. And I knew once I went in front of the pension board, I'd have to give all that time back, can't cash it in or nothing. So now, Danny Pantaleo had come to see. He was one of the anti-crime cops in the 120. He came to see me. He had a lot of CCRBs. So I would talk to guys with chronic sick of CCRBs. Because, look, I got a lot of CCRBs myself, and I know I could have avoided some. So you want to help a good cop if you can. If somebody comes to you and he's got 15 of them and 13 say, well, the guy called me an asshole. Well, that's easy. Would you stop calling people an asshole? That's what's getting you to CCRBs. Don't do that. You're good. I looked at all of Danny's cases and his collars. I could find nothing. He was excellent. Their complaint was, I don't think he should have stopped me. I don't think he should have arrested me. So anyway, Danny was always, he comes in front of me and I said, Danny, look, I looked at, I can't find anything here. You didn't do nothing wrong. You're a good cop. Keep it up. I says, what do you want? I want the gold shield. We're going to help you get the gold shield, you know? Well, and then he got involved in that. Now, the funny thing was, the store owners in that little square there by that park called to complain about Garner because he was selling Lucy cigarettes and he was hurting their business. So they called. And the CEO of that precinct had been yelled at, the Comstock before, by the chief of department for not fixing that condition. So what do you think he's feeling, right? I better do this, right? Well, Danny wasn't on duty that day. He was going to court for a collar. The kid, Justin, little kid, he was a short kid. I remember him because he was a good bowler. He bowled a 300 game. He had to go out there, but he didn't have a partner. So they said, will somebody go out with Justin? And Danny goes, I'll go. He didn't have to be there. Goes out. This guy was huge. 6'5", 390 pounds. And when you look at the tape, it's classic takedown. Justin, the little guy, took him low. And Danny, who had to get up, took him high. He went back, pushed them against that plate glass. When Danny's lucky he didn't die at that moment. As soon as they went down, Danny let go of his neck. As soon as they went down. All right? There was a doctor in California who specializes in obesity, and he did a whole report talking about this guy and how strong he was. He says every time he took a step, he was leg pressing 360 pounds. He said this guy couldn't sleep flat in the bed. He was so fat. He had to sleep in an armchair because the weight would have crushed. He goes, the minute he started fighting those cops, he said this, and he had a lot of the health issues too. He said this, nobody could have stopped that. He was dead the minute he started. So poor Danny, they sent him up to the borough. His dad lived down the block from me. His mom and dad was a retired fireman. His mom was a wonderful lady. The union went there. Yes, he was. And I knew Matty too. He was in charge of the gym I used to go to. He was a mean bastard, I got to tell you the truth. So God rest, he's dead now too.
Yeah.
But the delegates went to his house every day, the trustees, his father's house. They did everything they could. They really did. This kid had just bought a house. He had to get rid of it and live with his father because they were not picking in the house. Somebody must have doxed him or something. I didn't know what to do for this kid. And they fired him. They fired this kid. And he did nothing wrong. That day, because then I called the chief of patrol then, maybe, and I said, do me a favor, put the tape on. Let's go through frame by frame. I said, this kid did nothing wrong. It's his textbook. He did nothing wrong. You can't screw this kid. He's a good kid. So, because he's worried about the peer against of everything. Yeah. Fittest of the finest. Yeah. I don't want to talk about that because I know a lot about that guy when he was younger and what his history was too. He wasn't the fittest of the finest, I'll tell you that. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so I call him and we go through it, frame by frame. And he goes, oh, Bratton wants to see you. I said, why? Oh, he wants to give you a second story. Thinks you got fucked. I said, well, I did get fucked, but I said, I don't know if you noticed, Jimmy, but I was already approved medically for 3 quarters. Oh, you should have come down. Why didn't you come down? I said, Jimmy, he's there 9 months. If he wanted to see me, you call me. I have to ask my boss, and I got to go to the chief of patrol, chief of department. I don't go. What do I go into see the PC and go, hey, here I am. I says, but if he wants to make it up to me, you can give me a second star before I go, and then I can cash in for a year's worth of my time, and I'll call it even. He said, but there's only 2 people on the job who would do that. I said, Espo, and he's gone. He had retired. I said, and me, and I'm leaving. So I guess I'll never hear from you again. And I never did. Because they're worried about if they gave me the second star and then I left right away, we set him up. Hey, you publicly say the guy got fucked. And he says, oh, why are you making it up to him? There's nothing wrong with that. We fucked up. And we made a mistake. But they didn't. But that was it. So I was out in August after that. I went in front of the pension board and once they saw this doctor's name, the Yankee surgeon, who said I can't work, they start doing the genuflecting, and that's it, you're out. Because this guy he's a big dude, you know. So, and that was that.
Mike, we talked a lot about numbers with stop, question, frisk. We talked about quotas and how they put a negative impact, and we want the cops to do the right job. And clearly you're a good leader. So Adrian Schoolcraft put a spotlight on the job. What, from a leadership perspective, what happened there?
Let's go through that. I didn't even know that guy. It's Halloween night, and I'm working. I always work the late on Halloween night, you know, be with my guys and stuff. They can't be home with their kids. I'm not home with my kids. So I'm doing my rounds in the borough, stopping in that, you know. And I go into the 8-1, and there I see the guys from FIAU, you know, investigations, the borough guys. And I know them. They work for me. Timmy Traynor was the captain, a close relationship. He always did the right thing. He would do what you asked him to do. If you didn't want him to look so hard, he knew what to look at. Remember when I said you got to pick the right guys for jobs like that? Timmy was the right guy. And his guys were great. So I see them all in the lot. The 8-1, so what are you guys doing here? Oh, there's a cop here. He went home. Fabian, just listen, Fabian. You're going to hear the real story about Schoolcraft right now. So pay attention. And by the way, I ride horses too, and that's a beautiful horse. My daughter just took her first fall 3 weeks ago, 10 years old, at her horseback riding lessons. Took a big flop. So they're here to look for him. I didn't know who he was. They said he went home, that he's under psych evaluation, and he went home. He's not answering the phone, and they're going to go see him, and he might be suicidal. They're going to go to his apartment. He says, well, where's emergency service and everything? Well, the chief of the borough then, told us to do this and keep it under the rug. I said, keep it under the rug. You're going to go to a guy's house, one of my cops, who you're telling me is suicidal, and you're going to, kick in his door, and he's going to shoot at you, and you're going to shoot him, or he's going to shoot himself? I said, no, we're not doing this way. So I said, I got this. And it was raining now. So I call emergency service. I get, everything. I put hostage negotiation, Gentleman Jack. Everybody knew Gentleman Jack. The best hostage guy I ever saw. I loved him. They're on call, but I have emergency service go there. I have cops on the roof. There's a lieutenant out, 2 lieutenants in the backyard, pouring rain. These guys are getting soaked. In front, they go up. It's like one of those railroads, you go up the stairs, and there's a front and back door to the apartment. So emergency service is there. Hold on a minute. I go downstairs. I talk to the landlord. Is he here? He goes, I know he was there because I heard him moving around about 2 hours ago, but then I haven't heard him since. I'm like, oh, fuck, this guy's hanging in the closet. So I tell emergency services, what you going to do? We're going to crack the door. You're not going in. Crack the door, and Adrian, it's the police. We're here to help you, Adrian. Please come to the door. If you don't come to the door, we have to come in. We're not going to hurt you. Adrian, we're here to help you, Adrian, And I'm right next to them as they're doing it, because you never ask people to do things you're not going to do yourself. So finally we go in. We're there a long time. I got all my cops on the roof, in the backyard, everybody pouring rain, everybody's stressed out. I got hostage waiting to come down. And there he is sitting on the bed just looking at us. Did you not hear us? Fuck, do you understand there's fucking guys in the rain? Hey, what the fuck is wrong with you? You went home. They told you not to go home. You went home. Did you not hear that? I'm angry because everybody's stressed out. They think you're dead in here. We don't know what we're walking into. Maybe we got to shoot a cop. Who the fuck knows what? So now, I'm sick and I'm fucking pissed. So, you have to come back to the command because he's going to be suspended. And me or Adrian Schoolcraft? And as far as the vaccination thing, I got to tell you the truth, Mr. Mikey G. There's nobody that's got more balls in front of you right now than John, because I know damn well that if I had that job and I didn't have my 20 and they told me to take that vaccination, that I would have fought it, pitched a bitch, been a big man. On the last day, I would have taken it. I'd be afraid to lose my job. He left with less than a 20-year pension. He has children. You want to talk about principle? I don't know sometimes if it's stupidity or principle, but he's got more fucking balls, and that's all there is to it.
Amen
And I
to
mean
that.
that. I mean
Amen,
that,
Mike.
John. You're a better man than I would have been, because I know I would have taken it. I would have caved. I know I would have. Even with 30, I would have caved. I loved the job. I would have been afraid to lose it. I don't know what else I could do for a living, because that's all I was ever meant to do. So now here's Adrian, and he's being belligerent, and now he's got his father on the phone. His father lived upstate. He was a part American Indian. So his father was like the town drunk up there, and they would have to take him home, the cops, all the time. So one night they found him sleeping on his porch in the middle of the winter, like you are now, freezing your balls off, Eric. So they want to put him in the house. He fights the cops. I guess he takes a little bit of a beating, sues the cops, and wins all this fucking money. So that's their deal, right? This is what Adrian's setting up. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea that the commander of the precinct had a thing with him. I didn't realize it was this guy, because he had come to me. He wanted to transfer a guy out of his command earlier, and he shows me this evaluation. I go, well, what did he get on his list? A couple of evaluations. He got above standards. I go, no. You got to do more than this. All of a sudden, I said, all of a sudden, you want to get him out? This looks more personal. You got to do more documentation than this. You didn't do an interim evaluation. He's great. Now he sucks. I didn't realize it was him. And he appealed the evaluation being negative, which was shot down in the borough because, there's a process for it. He didn't do it right. But he didn't get transferred. I'm not going to do that to a guy. You can't do that personally. You got to put your work in and show that a guy deserves to be transferred. But now he's on. I didn't realize it's the same fucking guy. I had no idea. So now he's on the phone with his father, and now EMS shows up, and they take his blood pressure. And I'm telling him, you got to go to the hospital, and then you're going to come back if you're okay. If you're sick, you're going to get treated. If not, we're going to suspend you. And there's a female lieutenant, EMS, and she goes, he has to go to the hospital. His blood pressure is off the charts. He's about to have a stroke. And that's, if you hear the tape, I'm telling him, come on, son, you got to go. Listen to them. They say you got to go, Not worried about him. Maybe he's not in his right head, right? So they get him down to the bus, and I come down. I'm talking to emergency service. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry, standing in the rain. And those guys were the fucking best. They do whatever you ask them to do. And I'm sorry I had to call you. No, call us anytime you need us. Fucking then he kicked that door down. Fucking go take that hill in a machine gun. They do it for you. They didn't give a fuck. And now the lieutenant goes over. The female goes, there's a problem. He ran out of the bus. He went back up to his apartment, and he has to go. I said, you're telling me he has, because we can't do that, but EMS can. EMS can say, you got to go. It's in, you can't. We're not allowed to do that. So now we go back upstairs, and now I'm told, you got to go. You got to go. I don't want to put handcuffs on you. Don't make me do this. You have to go. This is for you. So away he goes. Now I never go to the hospital. I'm done. Done for the day. Thank everybody. Do my report and make your notifications to go back to work. They keep him 7 days. Now you guys are on the job. They keep you in a psych ward 7 days. Usually that's somebody who tried to commit suicide. That's a fucking nut. They don't keep raving lunatics more than 24 hours. They do the blood test. They wait to see if there's any drugs, and they let them go. Well, his contention was that I went down and somehow coerced the doctors. Now, doctors didn't like us. Can you imagine going down? You got to keep me. Yeah, fuck you. Doctors wouldn't give you a blood sample. Yeah, they wouldn't help you. The hospitals, they wouldn't. It's like going to public school. They're not going to. It's liberal. They're not going to help you. So I think I fucked up when I testified, because I probably got a little personally involved myself, and I should have stayed more professional, because they wound up giving him his back. Yeah, I remember that, and I'm glad you made it through that. So that was a horrible day. So he wound up. They just wound up giving him back pay, and he got fired. So he got like $600,000. His lawyer got a third of it, so he got $400,000. He was out at work for years, so I guess it's a wash. I guess they split the baby too, But now what I should have done was when investigations told me, he told us just to handle this and keep it quiet. I should have said, fine. But no, not me. No, because my guys are going. And one of my guys is in that apartment. And what if he kills himself? What if you have to kill him? What if he shoots you? What if you get in trouble? What if somebody says, why'd you do it that way? What do you think? That chief is going to say, yeah, I told him? He was happy as a fucking clam, and I never gave his name up. And that made him even more happy. He's not with us any longer, so it doesn't matter. God rest his soul too. He died a horrible death. But, and this kid, who nobody told me, his guns were taken away. There was no chance of him shooting a cop. I didn't know. I called psych services. Yes, he's got problems. Nobody said he doesn't have guns. And what did he have under his bed? A fucking rifle. We didn't find that until they went back later on. Found the rifle. He also had boxes of 61s. He kept copies. Now the CEO of the 8-1 shows up. We got to take those. They go, we can't take those. They're his. And we also found his little tape recorder. He recorded the whole thing. What did I do with it? Most guys would throw it away, right? But it's his. Back on the shelf. We did nothing wrong. Here's his fucking tape recorder. And they tried to make a thing out of that. I said, no, I didn't. It's on the fucking shelf. I didn't steal anything. I got nothing to hide. But that happened, and then the 7-9 was going to go on. They were going to have like a job action. They weren't happy about a contract, and deservedly so. But I went to speak to them in roll call and said to them, look, all those dots on that wall, those are people that have bad things happen to them. They're not just dots. And I went the same thing. The kid that gets shot in the head. Are you going to feel, is it okay that happens because you didn't make another call? I know it sucks, but this is our job. There's other ways to do this. Maybe you don't have to get parking sensors. I don't know, whatever. But you can't not answer the radio. You can't let people suffer. You can't let crimes happen. You just can't. Not for a couple of dollars. That'd be wrong, So I gave that speech roll call, and I said, for those of you that are taping it, I am too. So I put a tape up on a recorder. But I think I did say something. I said, if you don't know how to do it, I do. I'll come down. I'll work with you in a radio car. I said, and I know guys like me that'll come down. We'll all get in radio cars with you, and you'll make more calls and answer more radio runs than you ever did before. I can guarantee you that. And when you make collar up, I'll go get your partner on a foot post, and he's going to collar up. I said, so unless you want to work with me, please just do your job, So then they transferred me to Staten Island after that. They thought I was a fucking lunatic, so they transferred me to Staten Island. And I was
so I was on Staten Island. I was just about to get promoted when they transferred you, and I used to play cards with all these older cops. Most of them were like patrol guys, 20 years on, over 20 years on, and they weren't great cops, right? They were constantly going sick. They really always scamming, and so you had called them down prior to me playing cards with them one weekend, and they all spoke very highly of you. I'll be honest. You had pulled a bunch of guys into a room. And like they thought they were going to get their ass chewed. Like you had a reputation on the job as a worker. And they were like, no, man, it was more like a pep talk. He was a gentleman with us. And I was like, I was in crime. So I understood what you were doing. I was about to be a sergeant. I understood it. And I was like, I would have thought it went different until I sat and I played cards with them. And then they started telling me like, no, he just went around the room. He wanted to know our individual issues. He got to know us. And it sounded like a pep talk, and honestly, they were like kind of motivated.
Well, look what happened. What'd you say? 20-year guys.
Yeah.
I was a cop for 5 years in a 2-8, short amount of time, busy place. Towards the end, right before I got promoted, I was working with a guy that was not so motivated. He was a senior guy. And I started getting tired of it. The same old everyday stuff. I think what kept me motivated a lot was that I kept getting promoted. So, when you get promoted, John, Eric, the next 2 years, or you make your transfer, it goes by fast. So you don't get bored. Okay, now you're working on Staten Island. Most of the guys that work midnights, the older guys, they work it because their wife works days or they have second jobs and they're fucking tired. All right, I've been there. I get it. You don't even know what day of the week it is sometimes. I got up one night so tired, I sat on the end of my bed, I started crying. Sergeant, I couldn't do it anymore. And so I sat there, cried for about 10, 15 minutes. Had my crying, I said, well, if I don't go to work, I don't feed these kids. So you had your cry, get up with your big boy. And you know what I did? I was supposed to go to the 7-3 for my police. I drove to my second job and fell asleep. I didn't even know where the fuck I was. So you have to understand that. And guys get lackadaisical and Staten Island was slower, and you forget why you're there. There was a summons cop in the 123. Oh man, everybody lived in Staten Island hated this guy. He did Highland Boulevard, and he did his work. He did his work. One day I look and he made all these the 511 collars, but he always made them half an hour before his tour was over. So I call him up and I said, listen, you work a Monday to Friday, 06 to 14. You probably don't get out of the station house 0800. You have your breakfast, your coffee, you prepare your summonses. And you're making like 60 hours of overtime a month because I said, you mean to tell me with all the car stops you do, and you do a lot, you can't find any 511s before half an hour before the end of your tour? I said, work with me on this. They can't all be the last hour. So he did. He worked with me, and he did what I asked. And he was an old timer. He knew, okay, you're right. There was 2 guys that worked in the 123 midnights, and they weren't answering their radio runs. And I knew the story. They're tired. They're doing this 20 years. Maybe they work second jobs. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and your eyes are getting heavy, and you get the call for the dog barking in the backyard. And now it's fucking breaking my fucking balls with this. But if you're the guy making the call about the dog, it's important to you. So you would tell them, listen, what'd you make last year? 120. So the people in this community, which by the way we all live in and know everyone, they're paying you $120,000 a year, right? To have the privilege of working in the neighborhoods where you live and you know people. And they're paying you to look good, treat them right, and care about their problems. All right? So I know the dog at 3 in the morning is a pain in the ass. And I know you're going to go knock on the guy's door and he's going to yell at you. But that can get the other guy, that's what he's paying you for. And you got to treat us, you got to at least pretend you care. Just go do it. Just go do it. And you would talk to guys like that. And some guys would and some guys wouldn't. Listen, there was a guy in a 7-5. And this guy worked midnights. And he did nothing. I mean, nothing. So I call him, and he was a big guy, big, burly guy. You look at his hands, they were all chewed up. So I forget his name. I can remember his face, though. And I said, what's the deal? And he starts telling me his story. He's going through a horrible divorce, doesn't see his kids, doesn't have any money. His second job, his business, when he gets off at 8 in the morning, he's a roofer. That explained the hands. Completely torn up. You're sitting there listening to this guy, tears are coming down your face. You can't help it. This guy's how much longer you got to go? To 29 months. Is what you're going to do. First of all, you get up and hug him. Jesus Christ, this guy's in pain. You're going to work in a station house. You're going to be station house security. I'll give you a security post. You give out the radios, check the property, and then you're going to bed. And that's what you're going to do. Just come. Just get to work. That's what just get here. Do your 9 months. What are you going to do? Well, we could fucking kill this guy. Well, I know. Let's transfer him. Let's send him. Let's put him on day tours. So now he can't work that other job. He can't support his kids, who he doesn't see anyway. And we'll find him, hanging by his fucking neck in the closet someday. Everybody's different. You got to talk to everybody. You put round pegs in round holes. Not everybody's a street cop. I had one white kid in the 7-7. He got sent to me because nobody wanted him. White kid, but he loved rappers. He connected with them and they loved him. What do you do with a guy like that? You make him a youth officer. He did great. He passed away too within the last few years from 9/11 cancer. Paul Pekoski was probably one of the best cops I ever met on the job. He was a sergeant in the 7-5 when I was in the 7-3. And we used to have a running joke, who was going to get in the most shootings. He won. Well, he makes lieutenant, and he was working for, working for Izzo. And Izzo hated him. I said, send him to me. He was a lieutenant. I had this 7-7 then. He took all the special units. This guy was out there making more guns than anybody else. Fantastic cop. He was rough around here. He'd tell you what he thought, but so what? He was a good fighter. But he cared about his cops, too. He wasn't going to beat them up to get you your numbers. Paul's, I think he's still on the job. One of the best cops I ever met in my life. And what a great guy. What a loyal guy. And Izzo hated him. You go figure. I took a lot of the broken toys. You give them a second chance. You call them in, and you tell them that was then. This is now. Fresh start. What do you need? What do you want? What's your life like? This is what I expect from you. No judgment from the previous stuff. That's it. I don't give a shit. And I would tell you 95% of those guys turned around. That's true. It's true. The other 5%, you found a spot for them. Maybe they wanted to be the broom in the station house or something. Fine. Whatever. That serves a purpose too.
There's a seat for every ass on the job, right?
Yeah. Sometimes there's not. I mean, listen. I don't know if you watched that documentary with Michael Dowd. I mean, he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
He was actually a legend in his own mind, but nobody in the 7-5 wanted to work with him. They all hated him. He took Urel, who was a young kid, and I guess he was enamored with him or whatever. But nobody wanted to work with him, and he shouldn't have been there. And again, our culture, right? Let's go back to the Abner Louima thing. See, when you see these things and you go to these things, you start realizing. So you got Abner Louima, right? And now you're the sergeant on the desk. And he comes in, and they take him out of the cell, and the bathroom's right over there. And you hear what must have been ungodly screams, because if somebody's doing that to me, I'd be, I don't think I'd take it lightly. I think I'd be screaming terror. And then you see a cop coming out waving a stick, right? I just broke a man. Well, you're in a bad position because you're the sergeant. But if you think fast, our culture, all these cops that are here, they're all sitting here tonight going, I wish I would have banged in tonight. There was 2 street crime cops in that station house got railed. Their only crime was making a gun collar that night. They weren't even part of that command. They have no fucking idea what's going on. Our culture doesn't allow us to give each other up. And you have to understand that as a boss. I now have to save my men. I have to make a bad decision. I'm going to be thought of as a scumbag for the rest of my career. And you are. If you would have turned around and I forget the cop's name that went to jail for that.
Volpe.
Justin Volpe. Justin, give me a gun and shield. You're under arrest. For the rest of your career, you would have been thought of as the biggest scumbag. He didn't cover him. But you ask all those cops now, ask Kenny Werner, ask those street crime cops, ask those guys, do you wish you would have done that? Because they all got in trouble. Some of them lost their jobs. You have to protect them. You have to realize what they can and can't do. You have to realize, what their job is and what you're, like I said, not just that they go home physically okay, that they're out there fighting. What about mentally, emotionally? How about their job? How about feeling good about themselves? How about knowing somebody cares about them? Which is a huge thing. The emotional hug. I care about you. You got a problem? I'm going to help you work that out. Personal problem, whatever. I'm going to, your mom's sick with cancer. You're doing your day tours in the hospital. Don't use your time. Don't go out and get drunk and get in trouble because I won't be able to do this anymore. Give me a call every 2 or 3 days. Let me know how you're doing. It's not them saving their vacation time that matters. What matters is somebody cares. Because they're in what could be like the worst parts of their lives, and somebody cares. It makes them want to cry. You got to care about them. They're not just things, they're your chickens. They're your family. Just like your family's your family. They're your family.
Mike, let me ask you, because you came on the job in a very interesting time, right? I was coined as the most complained cops, but I think it's really interesting that you came on the job at a time where CCRB was not its own independent watchdog until 1993, and you came on before that. So What changes did you see throughout your career with CCRB, and what do you see now? Because
I got a lot.
In my opinion, that you can't do intrusive police work the same way you did then because of CCRB. It's really hindering cops, holds it back their careers.
You know what? You couldn't then either. It's a pendulum. I mean, I was on the violent prone list, and look, when I made captain, Commissioner Keller told me, you're never going to make anything more than this. Not your fucking record, Later on, I made inspector. He was a civilian. There was the World Economic Forum. There was I had from the downtown up to 42nd Street, river to river on the nights was my zone. And he's going to be at the library at a function. Go down and see if he needs something. So I went down, and there he was, another little Irish fucking guy, right? And he goes, oh, Mike, last time I saw you were a lieutenant. I go, no, last time you saw me, I was a captain. You said I'd never have nothing more. Now I'm an inspector. I said, you go fuck yourself. And I walked away because fuck him. But you did get in trouble. They would hurt your career over them. I don't think you'd lose your job. But it was, and then there was a time when the pendulum kind of swung more towards the middle where they weren't as serious. But again, and even when CCRB came in, the penalty still had to be upheld by the job. Now, but what you found is, again, certain bosses who see you as a liability because they don't want to rail you, but they don't want to protect you. They're worried about their career, their next promotion, they don't want to be second guessed. Well, it's true. That's the culture amongst the bosses, a lot of them. Now, I hate to say this, and John, we got sidetracked because I'm all over the place.
Don't worry about it. It's good.
We love it. Keep talking. We love it. We're enjoying it.
But, you asked me, what would I say now? And I hate to say this much because I love the job. I love my work in cops. I don't know if I'd be doing a whole hell of a lot right now because of the culture, because of the upper brass, because of the bosses. I mean, we talked about telling cops to chase cars with paper plates. Who are you thinking of? Them or you? And by the way, when they run a fucking lady over in a carriage, she's got a baby carriage, you know what you're going to do? You're going to point to the patrol guide where it says you got to take the time of day and you're going to are you going to stand up like a man and say, that's on me? No, you're not. No, you're not. You fuck. There were times I would terminate a pursuit, and I know the cops hated me. I know that I wanted to get them too. As much even when I was a chief, if somebody ran, my first instinct was to hit the pedal, get that motherfucker. You have to protect your people. You got to care more about them than you care about your promotion or how you look or even your reputation amongst them. Like I said, if that guy with Justin Volpe would have arrested him, his career would have been done. He didn't care enough about his guys. And a couple of them paid a pretty fucking severe price. I know one guy went through all his money and his father's money for lawyers. And his father was a very wealthy man. Kenny Werner. Yeah, he went through everything. He went through hell. And those two street crime guys. What was their crime? Oh, yeah, they made a gun call. Oh, yeah, big fucking. They just happened to be there. And they're going, I wish I wasn't here. I wish I wasn't here. I wish I got coffee instead of this fucking gun call. And you don't protect your guys. I don't know what I would do now. I would be very careful. But the problem is there are still those of us. Yeah, but I work, Monday to Friday, 6 to 14, and I'm getting 30 hours a month overtime. Well, if that's all that's important, that's all that's important. But and you think the boss loves you because he's patting you on the back, he's giving you whatever you want until you fuck up, and then he's going to turn his back on you real fast. Unless he's a good guy. I'm not going to say everybody. But guys that'll ask you to put your shit on the line, yeah, I know it ends in a vowel. I know that. I'm not very proud of that either. But I think he's a fake. I think he came from somewhere else. His name was like Kim Piskowitz or something, and he changed it because he wanted to be a guinea, because he wanted to get him good with Espo. I think that's what happened there. So, by the way, Espo, God rest his soul. Best man I ever met in my life, not just on a job, in my life. Best man. I had a band, Kono, a friend that had a restaurant, had these bands made for him. And I was doing a lot of work. I wore it every day. And I was doing work around the house. And I looked at it and said, I should take it off. I could lose it. I don't know if I took it off or how could I lose it? It's got to, and I got to call Kono and get another one. I'll never forget him. What he did for people yes, he was a great cop. I'll never forget what he did for people that I cared about. He was a good man. And he did it 1,000 times a day. He did. He's the greatest guy in the world. But I don't know what I would tell the cops. I think I would tell them, look, if you see something really bad, my brother was a sergeant and he was very dedicated. He worked for me in different details. He fucking worked his ass off. And yes, he certainly did. And let's not even talk about that. I could tell you a few things about that too, Mr. QC Beast. Yes. But he told me if he was working today and somebody said that guy stole my purse, he said I'd make it look like I was running him, but I wouldn't catch him. Because what do you do? What do you do if you wrestle a guy and you put your hands, or you wrestle him, and you inadvertently put your hands around his chest, around there, lock you up for felony, you lose your pension? Well, how about I got stopped when I was, I think I had just retired, and I got stopped in Staten Island. I was on a cell phone, maybe I was still on the job. Maybe I was talking to one police plaza. The guy pulled me over and I go, "What are you doing?" "Oh, Chief, I didn't know it was you." I said, "No, I don't mean that. You're doing your job. I was on the phone." "What are you doing?" I says, because this was during the time when all the cops were getting in trouble. They were doing the videotape. I says, if I'm having a bit, what if I was on the phone with my wife or my girlfriend or something, breaking my balls, and I've had enough for the day, and you pull me over, and that's it. I'm not having it anymore. And you say, "Give me your summons." You got to go fuck yourself. I ain't giving you shit. "So you got to give me your summons. I have to arrest you." "Go fuck yourself. You ain't arresting me. I'm going to take," "No, you're not." And now I get up, put my hands up. I was no little kid at the time. I'm 225. I was in pretty good shape, right? And I says, "Now you got to kick the shit out of me. And you have to. And you'd be right to. And I deserve it." And you got the asshole across the street. All they videotape is when you first hit me. They don't videotape all that stuff. It's not on audio. They don't know what it led up to. And now you fucking lose your job. "Yeah, but I want to keep my day tours. I said, "I understand and I get it. And I know, but sometimes you got to stay." If I were you, I don't know. I think at this stage of the game, I wouldn't do too much. I would do the things I had to do because I have to, because I'm a cop. I'm going to help the people that need the help. But if you're asking me for, if you ask me for numbers, first of all, you don't like me as a boss if you're doing that, knowing the current. If you're a boss, you should tell your guys, be very careful what you do, pick and choose, don't give a number for a number, do the things you have to do, take care of the good people. I'll always back you up. Don't worry about the numbers. I'm not going to break your balls over this. I don't want you to go out and give empty numbers. You fix problems. As long as you're fixing problems and people aren't complaining and nobody's getting robbed and all the businesses are happy, I'm happy. And there's no kids aren't getting run over in the street by people going 90 miles an hour down the street. I'm happy. That's all. Don't worry about it. I got your back. And then they would calm down. How would you like to be a cop now? "Oh, you don't have to do shit, but the boss is saying you better do shit. But you better, because the fucking kid don't know what he wants. He don't know what you want. Just tell him what you want." 70% of the world, if you work in a shoe factory and you say, "You got to give me 10 pairs of shoes a day." Well, 70% of the world's going to give you exactly 10. They're going to figure out how they time it, and they're going to give you 10 because they want to be okay. Yes, I do remember that headlight incident. You son of a bitch. So I was going as a mom. So, and they want to go home and be with their families and not be bothered. Now you got the other 30%. So, a certain percentage of them is going to figure out how they can only do 7. They're not going to give you 10 no matter what they do. And it's harder for me. It was always harder to make it look like you're working than to actually work. And the other percentage, they're going to give you more because they want to excel. They want to get promoted or anything like that. And that's human nature. So cops are the same. Just tell them what you want and tell them why you want it and explain to them why maybe they shouldn't go above board too much or how they shouldn't go above board. Don't go out and just to get a number, give a summons to somebody, fix a problem. You fix a problem and don't worry about how much you give. You see something, address it one way or another. And I got you. And that's it. And they'll be fine. These guys are coming to work stressed out. They don't know if they're going to have a job tomorrow. They don't know if they're going to be able to feed their kid. Am I going to get arrested? Not get arrested? Now you read this stuff about CCRB with this mayor coming in. Well, listen, Brian, the guys that hated me, maybe, they deserve what they got. I don't know. I'm not perfect either, but it wasn't me that decided to go to war. It was a certain culture that said, you don't tell us what to do. We'll tell you what we're going to give you. Well, I'm not having that, Brian. And you're not going to abuse the public who needs you to do your job because we're the tough guys in the, such and such a precinct and we do things the way we want. No. And you don't have to be some racist asshole either. And I tell you the truth, after those guys, I'd be very leery about hiring white boys from Long Island after that place because they didn't do shit and they were racist and they hated everyone. And it's not nice. It's not the public's fault that you guys think you're tough, or it's not the public's fault that you didn't get the money you wanted. They need you to do the job. They want to go to work just like you and go home and close their doors and be kept in peace, just like you do when you go home. But I don't know what I would tell the cops to do today. I mean, I'd be afraid for them. First of all, nobody's teaching them the right way. They're all young. Half of them can't speak fucking English. None of them are in physical condition, from what I see. The days of the fit white males.
I tell you, Mike, I said you got more testosterone than these young kids that get on the job now. It's really sad.
Well, I get a little help. I have to get a little help, but you know.
What do you think about all the corruption scandals that have broken out in these last 3 years, like with the NYPD, with the upper echelon,
well, look, it is no secret that some of the people that got in trouble have had a pattern of doing that their entire careers. I've known these people through their careers. One guy, I would have girls coming to me say, he calls me in the office and he just starts changing his clothes. I said, well, let's make a call you up. I don't want to be one of those girls. Predatorial stuff. One guy was funny, one chief, and he was a funny bastard. And he goes, I can't understand it, but every time I get promoted, I get better looking, because he would have more girls, because they perceive it as a way to get their career. You can look at it like you look at Harvey Weinstein, right? Now, what he did was wrong. But you say, but those girls were part of it too. They traded something for something, and they got what they wanted. Is he wrong? I don't care. If you're the boss, it's incumbent upon you, even though the temptations are there, and they are. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to abuse my rank that way. If I was a tow truck driver, would this girl be interested in me? Probably not. I'm just not that good looking or that interesting. So you're wrong. You're taking advantage. You shouldn't do it. It's just as abusive as yelling at a man cop, tell him, you'll do what the fuck I say or else. You know what? I remember that. And you came into the borough and thanked me for doing that, because all the cops were mad at me. They said I ruined your job. And I'm so glad that you came to me and thanked me for that. And I'm glad you understood why. All right. And God bless you for still being sober. I have to be sober now because of my heart, but I don't like the world being sober. It's a whole different outlook. It just stinks. But
what was that story? Why'd you send him to the farm? What was that story?
He obviously had a drinking problem and he was out of control. And I was afraid his life was going to go out of control. So I sent him. And in those days, again, our culture, you ruined his career. You should have covered him. Covered him. And what about when his wife divorces him? Or what about when he has a car accident? Or what about when he goes to work and he has an accidental discharge because he's drunk? Or has a bad car accident and they give him a blood test and he's drunk, which had nothing to do with the accident, but he's now going to go to jail. Again, take care. But this officer, and that's not his name, obviously, came to the borough. And I felt bad about it because, he was a good guy. And I knew it hurt him for a while. It hurts you financially too. If you don't have that high option rider, they charge you for when you go to the farm is one thing, the Monsignor's farm, but they put you in rehab with junkies and stuff before. That's horrible. And everybody knows you're a cop, and you got to pay for it. You guys are taking pension loans if they didn't get the high option rider. But he came and thanked me, and God bless him, because it made me at ease with it too. He said, "You saved my life, and I'm glad." So that was a very nice thing. But I don't. So these scandals. So this one guy, and of course he really got jammed up. But you know what's up there? Yes, he was a great. But then again, Nappy, so are you. So, as I with this now, he did.
Mike, I want to ask you. All those years working the police department, and you said before you got on the job, you said, I want a job that's really not political. And it turns out policing, is much more political than you probably expected. So, throughout your years, what did you see that was important with policy in comparison to now? Because what we see now is that optics is more important than policy. What did you see back then before cameras, and in comparison to what you see now?
Well, to some people, it always was. The optics of their promotion was always the important thing. Like I said, you'd see bosses come out, and even up into Police Plaza. Like if you were the boss on the scene and you I think the shooting's good, and they didn't want to make that decision. They were afraid of that. Now, you're in the building. You're already like I was a one-star chief. So, and I loved the rank. I loved every rank, by the way. But so, all right. So I make a decision they don't like. So what are you gonna do? Not promote me again? So fucking what? If the person's right, they're right. You're gonna throw that person. You're gonna throw them under the bus and destroy their family for how they look at you. But I went the other way a lot. I thumbed my nose at all of it. I didn't go to the parties. I didn't go to the outings, the golf outings. I started going to the golf outings as a captain. I can't play golf anyway. I'm a Brooklyn boy. The only thing I ever hit with a golf club was just got on his nose. I don't like. But I went because the CEA was so good to me, how they helped me with that when they had their golf outings, I would go. I'd be like the beer bitch, delivering beer and stuff to the guys and saying hello. And I would check people in. I just felt so indebted to them. They spent a lot of money to defend me, and they were very, very supportive of me. I can't, how do you forget that? So that's when I started going to golf outings. I would go to the police commissioner's thing because you kind of had to. That's another thing. So when I got in trouble with the Category 1 car going to the gym, they call me in. And, here's a picture of your car at the gym. Yeah, I go to the gym before I come to work. And I get my car and I go to work. I shower and why don't you work out at work? Well, because it takes me more than an hour. And I ask my guys to take an hour meal. I don't think that's fair. So I go on my own time. So I lost. We're going to give you a CD. I said, well, then I'm going to go to the trial room again. He goes, we just got out. I go, yep, my seat's going to still be warm. I'll go. This is Kelly. I'm going back to the trial room. And I said to Kim Peasy, and this is what's going to happen. Because you never gave us any written rules what we could do with these cars, right? I said I wasn't going to golf outings. I wasn't going to the PC's dinner with my wife, because what these guys all do. I wasn't sending a detective to my house with my Category 1 car to get my private car so I could go take equestrian lessons at the field, because that's what Campese used to do. I said, I'm going to the gym on my own time because it's not fair for me to tell the cops, you've got to take an hour meal, but I can take 2. No good. So I says, and you're going to be forced to give us, I'll beat you, and you're going to be forced to give us written rules that everyone's going to have to abide by. And how's that going to work? So they just gave me a letter of instruction instead, because you can't dispute it and it goes nowhere. And I can't. That's it. Okay, fine. Letter of instruction. I won't do that anymore. But I will tell you something. That call was a great privilege, and nobody gave us rules. So would I once in a while drop my kids over at school or go to the store and get bread? Yep. So every third tank of gas I got in that car, I paid for it out of my pocket, because I wasn't paying car payment, wasn't paying insurance, wasn't paying maintenance, wasn't paying tolls. And you, the taxpayer, shouldn't have to pay for me to go to get a quart of milk. So I kind of felt if I pay for every third tank, we're even, and that's what I did. And they knew it. I had all the receipts for that, but fuckers. But the corruption, look, that is a cast character of clowns up there. There wasn't one person up there that really did a lot of police work. All right. That was a good boss. Not one. One of them did less than 2 years on the street and got in trouble for perjury and got taken off the street and went from cop to detective first grade, just getting that other guy's lunch, which, looking at the size of the other guy, was probably a pretty big job. Probably needed a wheelbarrow to get the lunch. But, I don't know. But if I had, now everybody had reputations of this stuff. Yeah, that really was unfair. What happened to those street crime guys? Again, heroes going out and getting guns every day. Those poor bastards. They wish they were in the bathroom taking a dump instead of making that gun call. But if I had no allegations against me all the way up the ranks, and I make it to that high rank, you go to church, you light a candle, and you say, well, whether I was guilty or not, whether the allegations found it or not, I'm really going to clean up my act. I'm going to make sure that I'm unquestionable, because look where I am. You know, the chief of department, when you retire, you get 66% of your pay. You know that, not 50. That's the chief of department. It's in the city
I didn't know
charter.
that.
Dunn was the first guy that got it, because he was a very smart man. And
That's good to know. I had no idea either.
Yeah, he left and he wasn't happy. And he knew that little clause, and he sued and got it. So everybody got it after him. Yeah. So, and here you are, and you got a law degree. That's what was, let me tell you what, I talked to him a couple times a week. He's the best man I ever knew. He knew who he was and what he was, and he wanted nothing more than to be a cop. He knew who he was and what he was. Absolutely one of the best people. God put him here to do that, and he did it the best. But and you make sure that you don't do anything like that ever again. You make sure that that you can't be questioned. And yeah, Joanne got me too. Although she did pat me on the ass one time when I was a lieutenant and she was a captain. Yes, she did. She touched me inappropriately. So that's true.
Today, with the way the job is, you'd be a rich man.
I honestly didn't know what to do. I was like, "What is that all about?" But it was like, like one of those guys.
I'd rather you touch me than Joanne, and she's the last person I want touching me.
But but good job. It was one of those good job things. So, look, I could go through the list of those guys, and personally, did I like some of them? Yeah, personally, professionally, that is a cast of clowns, and there has to be a certain reverence for the job. I went to Comstat once, and there's Chief Estevio was chief of patrol. And Chief Canine was the boss of my borough at the time. I was a precinct commander. And this is before Comstat, but the mics were all on, So everybody's milling about and grab acid and, stuff. And Estevio calls Canine over. Now we had the stripes, and I remember in the short sleeve shirts you could wear the bar with the years on it, and the Roman numerals. Remember in the short sleeve white shirts? Uh-huh. But captains and above weren't supposed to wear them, because at that time there were so many captains that wouldn't even have two stripes. It was disgraceful that they didn't. The cops wouldn't respect them, so captains and above were forbidden from wearing any longevity insignias. And Canine was a very proud man. He was a good boss, proud man. He knew everything too. That fucking guy knew everything. And Estevio calls him up. Estevio's 3 stars. He's 2 stars. They know each other for their whole careers. He says, Joe, he says to him, Joe, that bar is unauthorized. You're going to have to take it off. And I went, oh, shit. What's going to happen now, And Chief Canine said, I'm sorry, sir, you're right. And he took it right off. Taught all of us respect for the rank, respect for the job. In that one little gesture, I expect him to say, go fuck yourself, because they knew each other, He didn't. Chief, you're right. I'm sorry. And he turned around to everybody take him off. We didn't. Once we saw him taking his off, we were all taking ours off anyway. He picked bad people. He picked nepotism. Out of all the Democrats running for mayor, Eric Adams was the only one to vote for at the time. He was the best, and no Republican was going to win. At least you had you take good care of yourself. He was the best one, because he did actually care about law enforcement. Not that he did any, he didn't in his career. But at least he would look out for us a little bit, I guess. And he was the only one that said about it. Everybody else wanted to defund the police. He really made bad choices in who he picked. He really did. And it was all for friendship and this and that. And it doesn't work. I could love you, but then I got up the strength to say, John, I love you. You're a great guy. But that wasn't me, actually. That was Charlie Broughton that said that. That wasn't me. So, and then Charlie would say shit like that, and it was always black people, and the white guy would get the CCRB. So, but he picked the wrong people. They didn't care about him. They cared about themselves and what they could get. And I guess everybody's with these stupid Twitter shit. I'm sorry. Captains and above shouldn't be on social media. You look like a fucking asshole. Stop it. Have a little pride in yourself. All right. For God's sakes. I mean, I see the current chief of department. He gets into fucking like feuds with people. What are you, 5 on social media?
Including the fights that filtered.
I heard about that just yesterday, but I knew about it before. But all of them. Oh, here I am.
I'm Johnny hashtags.
Here I am on the subway patrolling. Yeah, well, you never did that when you were a fucking cop. So get the fuck off and shut up. And everybody knows it. So, because the first thing the guys do when you go to a command is they run your badge, right? You see how many collars you made and medals and stuff like that. They know you're a fucking zero. Stay off the social media. Stop making a spectacle out of yourself. Holy shit. It's like Gavin Newsom getting on and talking about what a great governor he is. It's fucking, you better off, you look like an asshole. Stay off the fucking thing. I don't know. Well, he pulled out. I don't know who's going to win. Obviously, I think Mamdani's going to win. And then I hear that maybe LaPetri or maybe Rodney Harrison coming back as police commissioner. I don't know. I don't know how true any of that is. I don't know. I think you need somebody that's very mature, that's not worried about their career, all right, that has the balls to say no, like Sewell did. She was a very competent person. And when you talk to people that worked with her in Long Island, man, everybody loved her. And they had nothing but good things to say about her. She tried doing the right thing here. I think she wanted to wrap Madry for that thing in the 7th grade. She wanted to uphold it, when he got involved with the collar. And so she butted heads with, Adams and the rest of them et al. And she left. And she got a great fucking job. Good for her. And the other one that they wanted to give it to, that was from Seattle, a black female. She declined it.
Yeah, she said no. Best, Coleman, best. What do you think, though? What do you think, though? Do you think somebody? Do you think somebody from the outside could run the NYPD?
I don't think they should. Like, who's running it now is Kelly and Brian O'Neill. Brian, they're running it because she's doing the same thing. She was their counsel up there. She was a lawyer up there. No, I don't think so. I mean, I know Safer had it. What was his claim to fame? He fired more guys. I think you need somebody that understands it, that worked the street, that came up, that was administrative too. So you have your commands because, when you work in the street, what do you think? God, there's too many inside people, right? Until I got a command. And then I realized you need them because you need a little extra because who's going to go sick? Who's going to go on vacation? And what you did was you cross-trained them in different jobs. So you had the smallest amount you could, but you always had that leftover that could fill in. If it's busy here, there, could fill in, fix that. If somebody retired, got sick, went on vacation, you needed that because the command didn't run without it. I mean, we got involved with budgets and manpower and community and elected officials. So you got to see all of it. But you got to get up every day and like you get in a gunfight, right? I liken it to that. So the first one you get in, you're just scared to death and you do this and you shoot and you hope your bang is bigger than his bang and he runs away. After you have a couple, now you're into it. Now it's like, yeah, fuck you. Now you're aiming, right? And you handle yourself well because now you're used to it. I had a few, but if I get into one now, I bet I'm doing this again. It's been a long time. So you get up every day and you pray for the strength and the integrity to do the right thing, even in the face of maybe you don't get promoted or maybe they fuck with you, maybe they transfer. You got to pray for the strength. Do the right thing. You get up and pray to God every day. Give me the strength, God. Take your cross out and rub your cross. And God, please give me the strength to do what's right. Give me the strength to do what's right. Protect the weak, punish the bad, stand up for the people that can. And that's what you do every day. I could fix that place in a heartbeat. I tell you, I used to laugh. I'd call somebody I know in Police Plaza, civilian. They're going to call me, right? I'm getting a call. And I said, maybe you should give my number. I think they lost it. They're not calling me. I expected a phone call. I love that. I would have done that till the day I died.
What would you do? What would you do if you were appointed right now? What would you do? What was the first thing you would do?
I don't know. I'm going to tell you the story about the guy in the 6'8". He was a delegate from the 6'8". I don't know if this is Mike or not. It might be Mike. I came on a job with him. He was a hell of a boxer. Knocked me out in the fucking academy. I never even saw it coming. I'll tell you this story. That was a fucking travesty. I don't know. I think I'd probably I think what I'd probably do is evaluate the current structure in 1PP, who's what they do, how long, maybe they've been there too long. Reach out to guys that I know that are still on the job. Tomorrow, I would make Mike Baldessano chief of detectives. I would make Charlie McAvoy chief of department immediately. You put round pegs in round holes. You call everybody in like Pete Hegg says just did. You know, Bernie Carrick did that. And you get the old guard that resent it because I'm here longer than you. I'm not taking orders from you. But it gives hope to the younger guys that they're going to be treated fairly. And it puts people on notice. This is what I expect, you know. I would probably do that in some kind of an evaluation. You don't do anything quickly because you got to make sure you're doing what's right. You got to take a good, hard look, talk to people you trust, maybe call in some lieutenants and captains from the street. You know, how is it out there? How is it really? What's going on? What's the real feeling? What can we do? What do the cops really need? Call the unions in. Get the unions with you. You know, they can be a great ally if you work with them. You know, but it has to be on their side too. It can't be this automatic hostility, fuck you thing. That was, remember some delegates from Brooklyn North, but way back in the day, the trustees, they showed up, the cops got railed. I was only a sergeant, but the bosses hated these guys. They'd come in with their attitude, the cop would get killed. The cop's like, please don't send that guy. Don't send that guy. I don't want that trustee. He's going to get me fucking killed. You're in a room together alone. You're the lieutenant's delegate and I'm the boss. You can call me Mike. You can yell at me because we're doing our jobs. You can't do it in front of the guys. But yeah, but I have to respect your opinion. This is your job. You're doing your job. I have to give you to do it. It would probably take me about, the first thing I would do is make sure that everybody that's on telephone transfers is on paper now. So you know what you really got on the street and everywhere else. You get a real accounting. I would probably cut down a lot. You'd probably hear the crying from Police Plaza because all the Category 1 cars, the sergeants and lieutenants will be gone. You're not coming in from home anymore. You don't need them. Those go to the street. I would probably cut the size of it down. I would probably, and Chris Monahan would hate me to say this, but I would probably knock down the ranks in the upper ranks. There used to be 5 super chiefs, now there's 13 or 14. So you got chiefs doing, the 3-star chief doing job inspect used to do. I could save millions of dollars and not lose one pair of boots on the street. I would immediately go to drones. I offered them that. I knew a guy in California and he asked me if I could help him. I would have made a lot of money. I got in touch with Phil Banks and he asked him to talk to me. Drones and wipes that detect fentanyl or cocaine, different wipes immediately. Fail-proof. That you took it out like a wet nap immediately. Boom, 100%. So our cops on the street, they see powder, they put this on it, back off, and call in the guys with the spacesuits. Would save lives. But I would do that. I would go through Police Plaza pretty much with a fine-tooth comb. I would also, you want to work overtime? You're in Police Plaza? Okay, but you don't get to pick your details. They pick the best, and then they send the shit out. Everybody's going to get an equal share, and you're doing all out. And when you go out on overtime, I expect something. You're a detective or a cop, I expect a summons or a collar. You're out there doing something. Let's go. You know, you're going to get treated the same as the guys and girls on the street. See, you know, that Ivory Palace thing has got to stop. I would try to help the guys on patrol. I would try to get more out there. They need it. A friend of mine, Still White Shield, he's got 35 years on the job. He's great. He trains the cops. He still does the job well. He's got to always miss the sergeant sets by 1 or 2 points, you know. And but he's great. He's a pro. I would take him as a fucking driver right away. He's one of my drivers. That's it. He's in. Let's go. He's going to stay till he's 63. But that's what I would do. And you need to take your time and sit back. You know, Carrick did that. He would go to the commands and ask them, "What's the problems here?" And he would listen to you. And he didn't like guys above the rank of captain that never had commands. When he gave that speech, he said, you know, there's those of you out here above the rank of captain never had commands, well, you're going to find yourself in one soon. You saw deer in the headlights. This guy's shitting in their pants. They never did a day on the street. You know, now they're going to be held up, going to be accountable. Holy shit, what do I do now? They'd have to get rid of, the uniform in the day in Police Plaza is a coffee cup with your name on it and a piece of paper. And you walk around all day like that, like you're busy, right? That's the uniform of the day. Not to disparage the people. There are a lot of people that work really hard. And they do a great job. And I depended on them. I had people working in Police Plaza that, man, I loved them. I would have given them a raise if I could have.
Mike, it's great. You mentioned accountability, right? So right now we see just a blatant intention on the NYPD, especially the upper management, on misrepresentation of investigations and crime stats. And we see a blatant incident that we spoke about in Staten Island, where someone fired 6 shots at a house and was classified as reckless endangerment. Who do you hold responsible as far as this misclassification of crimes right now?
Precinct commander, immediately. And I'll tell you something else with responsibility. So you had this female lieutenant who said she was a victim. She wasn't a victim until she went down to Police Plaza to put her papers in because Wyndham was coming out of this. And they said, yeah, you don't have your 20 in yet, so we're going to investigate you and you're going to lose your pension. Then she became a victim. They should not have let her keep her pension. It's a little tough because they got that 30-day thing. It's not really enough time to bring charges and all that. So it's a little hard. They need to look at that a little bit for egregious stuff. Some of those bosses, they should not have had that. I'm sorry, they shouldn't have kept their pension. I know it's a law. Well, then you got to do something. You got to hit them hard, because if you don't attach some kind of penalty to behavior like this, it's not going to stop. It's okay. So it's like, hey, look at DC, look at Comey and Brennan. If none of them goes to jail and loses their homes, it's going to happen again. There's no downside to it. You do it, you get caught there, right? They put your name in the paper, but then you go home and you write a book and you make $18 million fucking dollars, right? When you see egregious things like that, punishment should be swift and merciless, and that's it. And it's over. And then the rest of the rank goes, yeah, I'm not going to do that, because that doesn't. I'm not going to lose everything I've worked for my whole life. I mean, the worst thing that happened with the guy that don't get me started on that, because I can go on that for hours and hours and hours. PC.
Do you watch his YouTube videos? Do you like his content creation?
His what?
Kaz Daughtry. Do you like his YouTube videos? He makes one every day.
What a fucking child. Hey.
We don't hold back here. It's the First Amendment. It's all good.
Oh, fuck. Oh, like I said. So he's a deputy commissioner, this or that, and as I understand, supposedly not allowed to testify in state and federal court because of being less than, shall we say, accurate. Yeah. Oh, man. Shame. What are you going to do? No, I think you should be held strictly accountable. And I know when I was in the borough, so we had 10 precincts. So I had John Essig and Tommy Moran were 2 inspectors. I was the XO. Both good guys, very, very different personalities, but both good guys, hard workers. So I said, we got 10 commands. I'm going to take 4, and you're each going to take 3. And we're going to go on a monthly rotation. We're going to ask them to send us the 61s and the scratch copies. So what are the types of crimes that you're going to look for being fucked around? Petty larceny, unlawful entry, assault threes. You're not going to look at the felonies. Everybody makes me say, but the felonies are already felonies. Look at the ones where they downgrade the, look at rape for sexual misconduct. Look at these things. And when we find discrepancies, which could be oversights, Mr. Gordon, he's absolutely the best. He would be my immediate pick for chief of detectives if he would do me that great honor, if they made me police commissioner, to do me that favor and take that job. Or believe it or not, because he's got the right attitude, chief of IAB, but I don't know if he'd want to do that. That would be a big ask for Mike, because I know he wouldn't like to do that. But where was I going now? Why do I keep losing my... This is what happens when you get old. Maybe I shouldn't take the fucking job.
Well, you're showing some good stamina here. We're going on almost 2.5 hours. We appreciate it. So if you get tired, let us know.
I'm good. No,
I can. Your stories, we can listen. Listen, the chat loves you. The stories are great. I can listen to you for days because it's authentic. So, I really appreciate your honesty and transparency.
Well, listen, it is what it is. I mean, I don't dislike anybody. Well, some I do, but I don't dislike many people, but you have to be truthful. Just because you work in the chief of department's office doesn't mean you should get a gold shield or that you should get first grade, right? You work days, you get your pick of overtime. You have a nice job. I'm sorry, even if you talk about the specialist shield, I do agree with it for emergency service because they are specialists. They are. And they did everything I asked them to do. If I said kill that man, they would just do it. They didn't care. I love those guys. Middle of the night, ice cold, freezing, standing on fucking fire escapes with that heavy shit in 100-degree heat for 4 hours. I mean, those guys did everything I asked. First in the door. No, chief, you can't go. They throw me in the back. No, you might get hurt. And they take the fucking door. I do believe that there should be in the precinct, there should be specialist shields. We tried to go for corporal's rank, actually, I recommended a police officer first grade, like special, because now they're saying the patrol guide, the senior guys in command till the boss gets there. Well, then give him a circular patch or something on the other shoulder, and give him a little more money, somewhere between a cop and a sergeant. You're asking them, first of all, how about an incentive to keep guys on patrol? And how about that? Hey, look, when you do a good job, look, you can get rewarded. I could be that guy. You have a few of them on each platoon, right? Typically, for a guy with a little time that's been doing it a long time, that's really good at it, that you depend on. Like when you're a sergeant, like when I was a new sergeant, and Jimmy Brady had like 18 years, and I would be out on the street. I loved Phil Pulaski. Phil was a very good friend of mine. I know that he could be a little abrasive at times, but you would never find a man that was more intelligent, more dedicated, drove himself harder than he drove everyone else. Phil's trouble was he just had trouble telling people, but I love you. That's all. He just had a way of speaking. And that's just who he was, but he was excellent. I love him. But you have all these guys, and you give them a little something extra. And the PBA would like it because they're not losing a member in their rank, right? They didn't want to lose memberships. They don't like the specialist shield. They don't like a corporal's rank. And when we sat together and talked about it, I said, you got a point. So let's do this instead. How about that? Would you support that? Yes. They did not support extra pay for A houses because, sometimes unions are like socialists. Everybody's got to get the same. To me, guy or girl's going to an A house every day, give them a little something extra. They work. We were in the 7-3 on midnights. We had 3 radio calls. I still remember the rundown. It was Adam, Boyd, Charlie, David, Henry. Adam, Boyd, Charlie, David, Eddie, George, Henry, Ida, and then John, King, Mary, Nora. That was the rundown. Adam, Boyd, George, Frank, Charlie, David, Eddie, Henry, Ida, John, King, Mary, Nora. 3 sectors all summer. That's all we had. Nobody got meals the whole summer. These guys handled 14, 15, 17 jobs. They worked their balls off for me. Never took meals. We had the one big perk they got. Whoever got the 6 o'clock meal, I let them skip unit training. They could sleep for 2 hours. I'd sign them out at the end of the, they'd say, you're in at 6, you're in for 2 hours now. You work their ass off. So you'd rotate that meal through the guys so that they could all, they would all get a little break at that because they didn't get meals from April to fucking September, man. They got no meals, these guys. They never complained. They never banged in. They came to work and they worked. So you need more guys on the street. You need incentive on the street. I would try to get the guys in A houses. I know it's not fair, but if you did that, give A houses combat pay, and then let me see how many 57s are put in for A houses. That will tell you if people really would do it or not or want it for that, because you wouldn't see that many. I don't think, anyway. So do something for them. Or maybe raise their cap on overtime because they're working more. They're making more calls. I don't know, something. Should be something for those guys and girls that go in every day and look at that shit every day. It's dangerous no matter where you are. You could bleed to death in Police Plaza. You're on blood thinners now, you're older, you get a paper cut and you drop dead in the fucking office. But, the A houses, they're working a little bit harder. They are.
What do you think about time limit though? Like we see a lot of guys like some they come in active, they stay active, they go past 15, 16, 17 years, they start deteriorating down. Like, what do you think? You think there's an expiration date on being on the street? Like, what do you think about that?
Well,
Like
I think
every day, all day, you know.
Look, I'm gonna be 68 in November. I'm not as strong as I was a year and a half ago, but I can still do it. I'm still stronger than a lot, and I can still run. I can still do 3 miles. I can still fight, and my brain still works most of the time. A lot more now since I can't drink. I did mention the world sucks when you're sober, right? I could still do it, and there's a value to it. Remember the guy Miller in Brooklyn South? He was a training officer. He had to be 62. He was a little chubby. He was an FTO, field training officer, and he got killed. He went up on the elevator on a run. I don't remember what the run was. I was in Brooklyn North, and the elevator door opened. He wouldn't let the young cops go out first. He went out first, and he got shot and killed. Did he lose his edge? I don't know. But he was still doing it. He was teaching the young cops. I don't know. There is a time limit, 63, right? Do I think, I don't know. Do I think that I could do what I used to do? 15-hour shifts, 6 days a week? I don't know about that. But that's incumbent upon the bosses. You got a guy that wants to stay, a guy or girl that wants to stay, for whatever their reasons are, and you're going to tell them you can't. So what you do is you go. I'm my friend, but 35 years. He's 58. Our birthdays are both November, so I'm 68, he's 58. We're 10 years apart. I met him in the 7-7, and we've been friends ever since. I know his family. I remember his kids were born. He's in great shape, too. He's a handsome guy, Italian guy, in good shape. I don't necessarily think he should be on the street anymore, but he wants to be, and he can. Now, if next year he said, I want to stay on, I want to stay to 63, maximize everything, you find a spot for him. You can't tell me a guy with that amount of time and that amount of experience that you can't find something useful for that guy to do, whether it's, hey, maybe teaching in the academy, maybe, I don't know, tactics or something like that. I don't know. Maybe being a young captain's driver, like with Jimmy Brady, like I was saying, my driver. We'd be at a job, he'd pull me aside, go, Mike, maybe you should do this like this. Maybe the way you're going, but did you ever think maybe this is better? He was teaching me, and I would listen. I had 5 years on the job. I'm going to listen to the older guy, right? And he helped me. So you find something like that. I think you're obligated to protect them. I have taken cops off patrol who had certain medical conditions. One had Crohn's disease and lost so much body weight that couldn't a lot of body weight. Really nothing. And I told the cop it was an anti-crime, I'm taking you out. And the cop didn't want to get out. And the cop said, I said, but you're going to get hurt. Well, I'm willing to risk that. I go, yeah, but the other guys in your team, they could get hurt too. And I'm not willing to risk that. I got to take, what do you want? What can I do for you? What can I give you? Where do you want to go? But I can't leave you. I'm sorry, you can't. And of course you feel horrible because they're upset and you're upsetting their lives. You're changing their lives. But like when I sent that cop to the farm, I wasn't doing that to be mean. I had no dislike for the cop. That cop was going down the toilet. That was my job, to save that cop. So I don't think people think enough about that. I think they want to cover their ass. Like you get certain bosses, they will not endorse anyone.
Mike, let's have a little fun here. Tell us, we know you like to work out. You're an awesome leader. People love you, clearly. What do you do for fun? Like, what are some of your hobbies? You into movies? What are you into? I know we talked about golf, but what are you into?
Well, I go to the gym every day. I wish I could go back to work and be a cop again, but I'm unemployable down here. I suck. Believe it or not, we live in America down here. So I currently have.
I'm in America too, by the way. I'm freezing my ass off. I'm in Montana, but it is America.
Well, I have 14 handguns, 5 rifles. He was a good cop, Nappy, and a shotgun. Wait, I'm going to tell you my the amount, because you don't have 10 cards down here, so you got to make spreadsheets with the gun, the caliber, the serial number in case you lose it. But I also keep my ammunition, so I currently have 15,108 rounds of ammunition of different calibers in my house. I like to go to the range. I'm getting into long distance shooting now with like a 6.5 Creedmoor. I want to get into 1,400 yard stuff. My brother Steve, who's retired and lives up in Sarasota, of course I know him since the day he's born, but we had a rock band together with friends. We go shoot. I get my other brother lives in my development. So we go shoot, then we go out. Afterwards, you have a little something to eat and drink, and you get to see. I like to shoot. So I have 1 million guns. My wife said if I get any more guns or ammunition, I have to have an intervention. So I didn't tell her about the last 2 I bought. I have a 460 Magnum. You ever see that? Mm-hmm. It's 8 3/8 inches long, the barrel. It's 5 shots.
That doesn't evil, huh?
Yeah. The round fills my hand this way, 2,200 feet per second. I got it because I was watching YouTube and I saw a guy was in a safari in Africa, and he's got this big revolver across his chest. The fuck is that? Honest to God, an elephant comes out. The elephant's about 30 feet away, and he takes his big thing out and goes boom, and the elephant dropped dead. I said, "Oh, I got to get me one of those." So I did. I took it to the range a couple of weeks ago. My brother's taping it, and you hear him laughing. This fucking thing. You ain't gonna shoot more than 20 rounds. It doesn't hurt your wrist. It hurts like, you remember when we had the revolvers and you had to hold them with your hands crossed? There's no comfortable position. And it's such a long pull because the cylinder is so huge. Oh my God.
I just shot it. I just shot it. It was, my friends got it. And I was like, what the? I actually missed the first shot. And I wasn't far. I was like 15 yards.
Well, I was shooting 25 yards, but it's 72
That's
ounces unloaded. I mean,
like, what the? I wasn't expecting that. I was like, it did hurt, and it did hurt. It does hurt your hands.
My knuckles, I don't know. Oh God! So I'm gonna have to start reloading because they're like $3 a round. So it's worth it to reload that, to reload the 6.5 Creedmoor.
It's expensive. And
my AK-47, which I got because I put the rag on my head. I pretend I'm a terrorist. I run around and shit like that. It's obligatory. You gotta have one. And it was on sale. I couldn't say no. So, but I do that. And listen, I have a 19-year-old daughter and I have a 10-year-old daughter. So my 19-year-old was in the marching band. She's a very, very talented musician, very proud of her. She played with the Naples Philharmonic. She played up in Carnegie. I put a lot of time in with that. I went with them everywhere, the kids. I volunteered because I had the time. You go with the band and, they go on a trip somewhere. They're invited to a parade, a Macy's parade or something. You got 10 kids. And my 10-year-old, listen, I like seeing her every day. Even if I'm out and stuff, I like to be home when she gets home from school. I like seeing her, and I didn't get to do that as much before, and and I play guitar. I used to play guitar. I sucked really bad. We had a rock band, just played loud and fast. So now I decided I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to learn theory because you got YouTube. I'm learning all theory now. I'm learning shit that I thought I made up. I found that it was a real thing. Oh, that is a real skill. Oh shit, I thought I made that up. I was going to name it after me. I do that. So and I have music. The kids play music, all of them upstairs. So that's good stuff. I get bored.
What about workout advice? You had massive arms. You still got massive arms. What are we doing? How much are we doing arms? What do we? I used to do 2 a day. Now I do 2 a week. I'm sorry. Now I only do once a week.
I split my body, and This is what happened. You used to split your body into 3 parts, right? So you do Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, because 6 parts of your body, right? Chest, shoulders, buys, tries, quads, and back, right? Legs and back, 6 parts. So now once I made captain, well, I got hurt as a lieutenant. I couldn't work out for 5 years. I did martial arts. But once I went back, now I'm a captain, I found out, you'd miss. You know what happens when you miss? You get addicted. Your body puts out those endorphins. You miss, you get like anxious. You look in the mirror, oh my God, I look like shit. So I said, I'm just going to go to work so I split my body into 6 parts. So I do, believe it or not, it's funny. I do chest and buys, back and tries, and then the next day I do shoulders and legs. Nobody likes legs. So you got to get that t-shirt that says fucking leg day. And you wear that when you do legs. And I go every day. I got in the habit of doing that. This way, if Comstack comes up or you have the duty and there's a shooting and you miss 2 days, you don't feel so bad. You know, you go on vacation for a week, you don't work out, you're with your kids. So that's what I do. I just can't lift a heavy weight anymore.
You still doing curls with the girls?
I do curls. I do curls. Let me tell you. Well, every once in a while, and it happened a year ago, my right arm gets paralyzed again. It aggravates.
That's for the shoulder?
Yeah.
The surgery?
I must pick some up. You get a pain in your bicep, and then it's just like you can use it, but if you go to pick up a 5-pound plate, you can't. It's just dead. It doesn't hurt. It's just not there. And that happened 2 years ago in January, and I didn't get it back full until December. So every day you go, you're doing whatever little, you just keep trying until you get it back. So, you know.
What do you, listen, I'm a big advocate. I say all the time, I've never done TRT, but I want to. I plan on it, right? I'm traveling. It's kind of tough, but I want to. I think that there's nothing wrong with wanting to enhance yourself, to do better, especially in policing. I believe it's a young man's job, right? As you get older, there's nothing wrong with things helping you. What are your thoughts on, obviously you used it. I don't know if you still use it, but do you recommend it? Who do you recommend it for?
I do recommend it, and I recommend it highly. I also have to tell you that you have to be your own advocate. You have to do your own research. A lot of the doctors that give it, they're so, well, first of all, it's a huge money-making business, right? That's number one. Number two, a lot of them are very, they really believe in this, you know? So the first doctor that I had, he actually went to the trial room with me, because you had like carry on telling people, well, you know, this guy definitely had it. He had wasting. You don't get wasting heart disease from that. It's the opposite. You'll get an enlarged heart or a muscular heart, because your heart, you know, you really have to watch this stuff. And the doctors that really believe in it will tend to they'll overprescribe it for you. They're really like enthusiastic, but this, you know, they think it solves all the world's problems. It can be dangerous. The effects of being deficient are just as bad as the effects of being over. You know, you've all seen those big guys. You see the big weightless bodybuilders. They drop dead from a heart attack or this or that. You know, you do the growth hormone, which you can't get anyway. If you get that, it's got to be illegal. It's expensive, but it won't cause cancer. They're wrong about that. But if you had cancer, it'll accelerate it. It's a growth hormone. Look at Sylvester Stallone. You see his face, the nose of 40 years? That's the growth hormone. Vince Coleman was a big, or was it Ronnie Coleman? One of them. Vince, huge. And as he got older, he got bigger and bigger in his 40s. But look at his abdomen, sideways, how distended it is. His organs grow. So, you know, you'll have doctors say, you know, I prescribe. You better do your research. Nobody's going to love you the way you love you, or watch you the way you watch you. I know some of the stuff they were prescribing for me. I was taking less. I just was afraid. I saw guys getting sick. I knew I needed it. And then when you take your blood test, you see where your levels are. And, you know, some doctors say 300 is sufficient. Nah, it's really not. Some doctors shit if you go 1,000. I know when I was doing it, and a job railed me as a bodybuilding, and doctors came on and said, bodybuilders are taking 10 times a week more than he's taking. He's not, I was never this cut, big, muscular. I just wasn't. I worked out my whole life. I ate like an animal. Every day at lunch was a rotisserie chicken, a quart of milk, you know, because you wanted to keep the weight on. I think it's a good thing. Like anything, listen, it's going to be over the counter before you know it. It is a good thing. You just got to do your own research. There was a guy in that gym that they posted before on Bay Parkway, Mike. Mike was 62 years old. He was a school teacher. You had to see this guy. I was in my, I don't know, mid-50s then. He was fucking huge, pumped, purple. His blood pressure must have been off the charts. He was unbelievable. Cut, big, huge. He married a younger girl, had a baby, and when the baby was 1, he died from a heart attack. So, you know, I have a 10-year-old daughter. She's going to be 11 in January. And my other daughter's 19. They need me around, you know. There's pivotal points in their lives. I can't afford to do stupid shit and drop dead. I'm trying to keep alive. My heart's no good. I have to go in for that. You know, it's all over the place. you gotta be very careful with the stuff you do. I do believe in it, though. Yes. Listen, I never flew into any kind of rage, and a lot of the guys that are on it, they're not these big. I weigh 203 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm not this big, muscular lunatic. You can tell the guys that are, and they're usually purple, and they usually grab their chest and fall down from time to time, and you have to pick them back up and put them on the machine. So, no, I'm a big believer in it. And honestly, Eric, if you wanted to do it, they have places that a lot of guys, they'll tell you to come once every 2 weeks, and they give you a lot. I didn't like that. You get this big infusion. And then you get the people that say, well, once every week. Again, it's a lot. You're giving yourself a lot, and then it depletes, and then you don't feel good. It's too much up and down. So there are places that do microdosing. So it's almost like an insulin. You're taking a little bit every day. So you remain very calm, very consistent. You're not going to be this big, massive guy. You're just not. And then there's the guys on growth hormone. They have no fat on their body. Guys that are 75 years old, they look like got all the veins, no fat. They're all growth hormone, but they'll be dead too soon. So, Keith, that's not you, Keith. You didn't look like that. If you did, I should be fired for letting you work. That guy that asked, listen, I recommend it, Eric. How old are you?
45, I'll be 46 soon.
Yeah, it's probably about the time. I mean, if you really wanted to know, you can go have a test taken. Just be careful with the doctors, because some will go, oh, 300's too high. No, it's not. Or you're over 1,000. All right, I'm over 1,000. That's my normal. That's how I feel normal. That's me. Everybody's different. There's a blood test, and then there's a clinical diagnosis. You'll know. And will you feel better? You might. I mean, you get a little more alert. You sleep a little bit better. You tend to lose a little bit if you had belly fat. What really blows it off their body is the growth hormone. They lose every ounce of fat they got and everything, and their hair gets better, and they look their skin. It's just like the fountain of youth, but it's dangerous. You gotta be careful, and it's expensive. You want to spend 11? You want to spend 11?
You're honest. I like the honest to give the ups and downs of it.
I'm sorry.
Because I speak to a lot of guys. What's that?
You sped up. You went like hyper.
Your voice isn't coming through, Eric. It's like.
How about now?
No.
It's coming up.
Nah, you messed up. Log out, log back in real quick, because something's going on with you.
And I'll wait for the question.
Yeah.
I'll just sit here
and so, Chief, we're not going to keep you all day. Eric will log in, and he'll get you his question. We've been very generous with your time. We appreciate it. We'd love to have you back. I'm sure Ronnie Two Bars would love to have you on, and Sal Greco would love to have you on as well.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure Tom Joyce as well. So.
Oh, I love Tommy. I love Tommy. So, yeah. But I'm glad all these guys are doing okay, and I'm glad, and I'm glad you are too, because what happened to you was wrong. They could have destroyed your life. They could have destroyed your whole life. They could have cost you your marriage and your children.
Well, I mean, and then we have Marlon on here, Marlon Bethel. He, I was like, I vested. Marlon was like, then he fought it, and they terminated him. No trial room, no nothing. No, he never was charged with anything, and he remains terminated today. He's terminated non-disciplinary.
Okay, so
not taking a vaccine, he had antibodies for it. It's insane.
So what if you leave? Right, you vest out, and you have little kids, and you can't get a job, and now you're living on the balls of your ass, and your wife divorces you because look at the decision you made, John. You put us all in jeopardy. Does anybody give a shit about you and your kids?
No,
and your
they
family?
don't care. No. And that was the thing, and that's what they never understood. Like the job didn't understand, like about the podcast. I'm like, you guys don't understand. You created the podcast. Like you sent me out. I was fighting you about the mandate. Then CCRB is trying to terminate Eric. He comes on. He starts talking about that. Then they fire Sal Greco for being friends with Roger Stone while Eric Adams is hanging out with him, trying to get a pardon. And it's like, and it was like one thing after the other, and the same thing with Marlon. And I'm like, you guys created this. Like this didn't happen.
In the meantime, their level of corruption is so high, and nepotism, that they've made an absolute disgrace and clown show out of what used to be, the higher ups, whether you like them or not. That was a very proud, honored, revered. I remember getting called into the chief of patrol because they wanted to give me the 7-5, the emergency service. after the 7-7. So I went, and he called me, and Mike, can I talk to you? I come in. It was Billy Morange. And he said, he was an Irish guy, but I liked him. He said, I can't give you emergency service. I said, okay, boss, He says, you want to know why? I says, well, if you want to tell me. He goes, we have to give it to a minority so you can get promoted. And I wound up giving it to Steve Bonamo, no fault of his. He wasn't asking for it. And he also has passed away from a 9/11 cancer, so God rest his soul also. No disparity to him. But as we're talking, I show you what kind of a guy he was. The phone rings, and he picks it up. And I can only hear his side of the conversation. He says, you stop fucking complaining. You put your time in and shut your fucking mouth. And he hangs the phone up. What the hell was that, right? It was his son who made sergeant and went to the 7-5. I'm sorry, the 2-5. And they were giving him midnights. And he was calling up Daddy to get rescued. And Daddy was having none of it. You're the fucking rookie. You put your time in. Now, there's a man of honor and principle, right? His own son. Because his bosses now, who their son's, a year and a half on the job, and calling Daddy when they get a detail they don't like, and Daddy calls the precinct CO because he's a higher boss and threatens them, and then the kid's in the fucking squad. What are you doing to all the guys that are in the squad? You just demoralize all of them. There's got to be a certain, you got to, again, have the strength. Take your cross. Dear God, give me the strength. Give me the strength, to do the right thing. Give me that principle. You tell your son, put your fucking time in and shut up, like Billy Morange did. So that's what you do. What was your question, Eric, before you...
I can't remember my question.
That's so weird. Dude, we can't hear you. You sound like you're in a warp zone.
Maybe a fucking
text
moose.
Text me and I'll read it. You said
maybe a moose stepped on your antenna up there where you are, Montana.
His mic's on TRT. I don't know what's going on.
No. Morange was only part Irish. Now that's funny. He's a good man. I don't know if he's still with us or not, but that was one good man. Man, we worked. You know what? We worked for some good people. Some good people worked for us and with us. That's a blessing.
No, yeah. Listen, anything we missed today? Anything that you wanted to bring out? Is any questions that we missed? Any message you want to send out there?
Well, to the bosses, go to church and pray for the right thing, because people depend on you and the decisions you make. Look what happened to you. I can tell you honestly, sitting here, if I was a police commissioner, like I said, if I was working just for me and it was my decision, I probably would have caved, because I think of my kids. I'd be afraid of my job. If I was a police commissioner, I would have said absolutely not. And if you're going to fire these people, I'm not taking the vaccination either. And I'd stand with you. No, you're not doing this. It's experimental. There's been no testing. With abortion and the fat blue-haired ladies that nobody wants to have sex with anyway, so they're not going to get pregnant. It's my body, my choice. But now with a vaccination that could kill you.
Wait, you want to hear? You want to hear the worst part of it all? Is like I have basically every vaccination I've ever had to take. But here's the worst part: I get pneumonia. I almost go out of the picture. I'm having like long-lasting effects from it. So for the first time in my career, I'm out sick and I'm limited. I've never been limited in my whole career. They put me restricted. Never happened to me. And when I go down to the medical district, the surgeon's like, listen, this vaccine just came out. Don't take it because you're going to have an adverse side effect. You just had this really bad. You almost died. So I was sticking. It was I was like, and then only a few days later, they're telling me they're going to fire me. And I'm like, how am I going against medical advice? Like it's medical advice. And now you're asking me to basically be raped. That's what you're asking me. You're not telling me any reason why. It's just, and that's why I've been calling Eric Adams Harvey Weinstein. Cause I'm like, you basically put this in your body or you're not working, and I'm like, it's bullcrap.
Those vaccines are RNA. My mother was a nurse. So a few years back, she got the flu shot. She was older, but she was a nurse her whole life. And she called me up. She lived in Sag Harbor, New York, and I'd go see her one weekend a month or 2 weekends a month, but she's far away. 100 miles away from the 7.5. So I'm sick. So I get in the car, go out there, and she's sick, like a flu, bad. And she said it's the vaccine. And I didn't know about this RNA stuff. I just the vaccines, deaden germs. Like we all got. Somehow that wouldn't make you sick like that. That wouldn't do this. It's just deaden germs. It wasn't. Well, my mother was about 135 at that time. She wasn't a tall lady. She was a little chunky, not, a little more than regular, 135. She went down to about 80 pounds, got rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease, and these RNA vaccines cause autoimmune diseases. A few years later, slipped into dementia, and they think he's caused dementia, and she was never the same again. So we buried Mom 2 years ago. The last year she was down here with me. And she swore till the day she died, I don't take any medication at all. Like they want to give me, no. Because if you give me for that for the heart, then it causes this. We'll give you a pill for that. No, fuck you. Fuck you. I ain't doing nothing. They've been in my heart. You got to stay on statins. My cholesterol is 220 because all guineas, we have usually, Italian Americans typically have elevated cholesterol. It's true. It's true. And when I went back to the doctor after they went into my heart and jerked around in there, he goes, I want you to stay on the statins. I said, why? You said I have no blockages. Well, because your cholesterol is elevated. I said, well, I know it's 220. He goes, no, it's 210. I said, it was 220 3 months ago when I stopped it. You did what? I stopped it. It's now 175. I don't take any statins. I was 220 on statins. That's the biggest bullshit in the world. That is the biggest hoax that was perpetrated upon the American public with statins. The long-term effects, muscle problems, tendon problems. It's poisoning your liver, dementia, memory loss. Your brain is like 90% cholesterol. 20% of cholesterol in your body is in your brain. And they keep lowering the benchmark because they want to put everybody on it. Big Pharma's making a fortune. It only costs you 80 cents a month, but if everybody's on it, and I don't know what the coverage is paying them, and they keep lowering it. Nobody's done a study on that. What if cholesterol is too low? I can't remember my fucking name. I got to look at my license to find out where I live when I want to drive home. No, it's all bullshit. I don't take any thyroid. Well, I'll go to the doctor and they say, what medications? No. You don't take statins? No. You don't take thyroid? No. But everybody does. I said, yeah, that's a bad statement. Everybody does. That's a bad. 100% of anything is flawed. I would, however, Eric, yes, I would do I would do that if I were you. You go to places, they give you a little insulin needles and you microdose every day. It doesn't hurt. It's a little tear like an insulin needle. It really doesn't hurt. So, and you do it yourself. That's all. You wipe a little alcohol on it. You drink the rest of the alcohol. You do that. It's all good. You'll feel good. Plus, you've been through a huge emotional trauma that also affects you. This helps with that. It helps get you even. It helps get your emotions a little bit even, which I can only imagine. I don't mean to bring it up, but I can only imagine that I wouldn't want to go through what you went through, so I can't even imagine. So it would help you with that too. Make you more even. You wouldn't have highs and lows and stuff like that. I recommend it highly. I also recommend heroin and morphine too. So I don't know, crack and all that good stuff too.
Eric, could you talk? Could you get your question out?
Nope.
Nah. I don't know what happened to him. They zapped him.
It's probably not important.
Yeah.
You see that little cord? You see the little cord on the microphone? You got to plug that sucker back in.
Yeah.
You kicked it out.
Yeah. So all right. So listen, we've been going 3 hours. Again, we'd love to have you back on. I think it was super informative. We had about 1,000 people with us all day. Probably a lot more are going to watch this and listen to it by the end of the day. Anything you want to talk about before we get out of here? Anything that we missed? Any messages that you want to give?
No. I mean, I know that I would go back tomorrow. I loved it, and I loved and a lot of that is for the guys and girls that are doing it, And if I got to tell the bosses anything, check yourself, forget your ego, and take care of them, because without them, you ain't got what you got. If they don't, unless you're working in the building, pushing a lot of paper around, I guess you get promoted to an attendance award. But if you're out there with the guys and girls, you really got to let them know you love them and you care about them, you know, and like they're your kids. And if they're wrong, you got to tell them they're wrong. You got to try not to make it personal, you know, just deal with it and move on, you know, don't kill them. And just to watch themselves. I mean, until the powers that be come down with definitive guidelines and really tell them what they want honestly and will show them they'll back them up, that's what they need. Right now, they're walking around confused. They don't know what they can and can't do. And you don't know, you react to something in a moment, and do you have a job tomorrow? Do you feed your kids tomorrow? I don't know. Are they going to give a shit? Did they give a shit about you, John? Anybody call you and say, John, you had a vest. How are you going to make out? You going to have enough money? You okay, John? Should we throw throw a racket for you, John? You okay? Nobody gave a flying fuck. Your religious beliefs, your medical beliefs, your freedom to control your own body, they took it all away from you. And I tell you, until yesterday when you told me you didn't have 20, when you told me you had 20, my respect for you went up a lot because you got more balls than me. I don't know if I would have been able to do that. I could have done it for my guys, but I couldn't have done it for me because I'm scared. You know, I love my job and my kids, and I don't know, and what am I going to do? And, you know, how am I going to make money? I won't have my full pension. You know.
But that was the thing, is that what I was worried about. I'm like, they're trying to force it on my kids too. Like, my kids weren't allowed in school. They started segregating them. And then I'm like, well, if I take it, then I'm basically kicking the bully to my kids. Like, oh, what am I going to stop it then? And I'm like, I gotta stay in this fight. And that was the whole thing. It really, I honestly, like, to me, I would have, whatever. I took all the other stuff. What are you going to do? You know,
and look at what they're finding out now. It was all a crock of shit.
Yeah.
It was awful. And who made a lot of money off of that, by the way? Fauci. Yeah. Millions. And when they asked, I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah.
He did the same thing during the AIDS thing, right? In 83 or 4, he was in that same position. And they had a drug that was out there, like that chloroquine stuff they had. That was it was out there and fairly cheap. And don't forget, then it was sort of amongst the gay community. They thought it was a gay thing because a lot of gays were coming up with it. Of course, you know, we didn't know what it was. So the gay community wanted access to this medication, and in fact, you wouldn't let it. They want to develop new stuff. And I think some of the gay community actually pooled their money together to try to do research. You know, they were desperate because it was pretty rampant for a little bit. So he had a softball interview. I may have told you this. He had a softball interview with a network back at that time, and of course, he was the hero like he was this time. So they're asking him the questions. He thought it'd be softball, and all of a sudden they go, "Do you actually do the work on this?" And he said, "No, why?" They go, "Well, why is your name on all of the patents? Because if that, you get the money then." And he didn't know what to say. So you haven't done the work. Look, he's still not doing it. And he started hemming and hawing. He didn't know what to say. And he goes, "Well, I give all that money to charity." He's worth fucking millions. And he threw us all. He put, well, what he did to you was, I mean, I swear to God, you should be able to sue him and the government for what they did. You should be able to sue the city government. They're putting these people back on the job now. What about you? What about making you whole? What about putting you back on now, giving you your captain's rank, get you back pay, and then if you want to retire, you can. You'd feel better.
Well, we had them all on here. We had all the mayoral candidates. The only one that said they do it is Curtis Sliwa. You know, the Mondani was like, he wants the ability to be able to do it. Cuomo wants the ability to be able to do it. Eric Adams wants to be the ability to do it again. I mean, they're all, to me, they're disgusting, honestly. The Democratic Party, and it's not the Democratic Party it was 20 years ago. You know,
I don't think it was then either. I think they just bullshitted us better.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever were. I don't think they ever really cared for the working man. I don't think so. They're the ones, you know, there's over 2,000 agencies in the government now, people you don't elect that just tell us how to live. That started under FDR.
Yeah.
And the New Deal.
Yeah.
You know, that the great new, and Johnson, the Great New Society, which was the beginning of welfare, which completely obliterated the two-parent black family, completely destroyed it, and they did it on purpose. And you want to give reparations to them, they should get it for that. And the Democrats should have to pay them because they destroyed them. They destroyed the entire culture, and they've really had a hard time since then. and it's wrong. And they did it for votes. You fuckers, you did it for votes. So
I totally agree. That's what it was, right? Well, that was who was that? That was Lyndon B. Johnson's quote, right?
Yes. See what I'm going to do? So see, this is what happens now. So then I turn into the angry white man. This is why I'm going to start the podcast, the angry white man. Because you're making him come out. I hate when that guy shows up.
It's good therapy. So I'm sure Eric, we can't hear what he's going to say. So he's talking anyway, but
just going on and on. I think he's part of time. He's got the hands going, the whole fucking thing's going. Listen, it was an honor, John, that you asked me to be on. Thank you, and Eric, thank you both. And anytime you guys want, And listen, maybe if they give me the job, I'll bring you guys back on. You could be like advisors. We'll stick it all in all their asses. Then imagine that. Yeah. And Mike Harrington, who lost his job because they wanted Phil Banks, and he couldn't, and so they fucked him too.
Yeah.
And thank God he bounced back okay. He's doing okay, thank God. Good wife.
They did him dirty though. They did. He did. They did him dirty. They did a lot of guys dirty. That whole thing.
We're actually trying to get him a pardon, and Commissioner Carrick was going to help me with that, but he passed away. So I'm trying to go through a lawyer I know now. In 2020, I went to Atlanta with a congressman and a Navy SEAL to investigate the voter fraud. Commissioner Carrick asked me to do it. And so I met this lawyer then, and he's up there somewhere. He's doing something with them now somewhere. And I'm trying to get in touch with him I just want to get these papers to Mr. Trump, because the same people that did him did Mike for the same fucking reasons. Mike is completely innocent. I mean, there were people that did do things wrong who got away with it, but Mike's completely innocent, and he's a good man, and he's got a great family, and it's just a matter of pride to him. To have that record.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, maybe reach out to Sal, see if he could get it to Stone or whatever, get it up there to.
Yes, reach out to him. Yeah. If you can, and I'd be happy to talk to Sal. I would do anything. I tried getting it. Actually, I was talking to Commissioner Carrick. He got the papers, and then I tried to hit him on WhatsApp. He didn't get back to me for a few days. I said, "What the hell happened to him?" And then he was in a hospital and he died.
No, yeah, he used to call me all the time, and then he hadn't called me for a few weeks, and I was like, I thought maybe I pissed him off because I said something online. No. So I was about to text him because he was always supposed to come on. We just never got around to doing it. And
he was a very busy guy, John.
And so I literally meant to text him like, "Oh, you mad at me?" Like, because I didn't know, because I say a lot of shit online, So and then I heard that same day when I was like, I'm gonna reach out to him. That's when I heard it. I was like, oh man. I was like,
he was. I'll tell you what. I mean, when he got out of jail, I wasn't allowed to see him when he was in jail because I wasn't allowed. They wouldn't let me. But when he got out, I took him to dinner in Newark at that Portuguese restaurant, and I took a friend of mine, who's a private investigator, and he met him and loved him. And they hurt him, and you could see the pain in his eyes. Giuliani's godfather to two of his kids. And Giuliani turned his back on him because he felt they wanted to get Giuliani. I think they went after the commissioner to get Giuliani because it was his guy. And supposedly Giuliani turned his back on him, and that hurt him. And he's always a brave guy, tough guy, never complained. But you could see in his eyes, he wasn't the same. And he was trying to rebuild himself. So now Trump pardons him. And he feels so indebted to Trump. So he was Kash Patel's security before Kash got confirmed. He was going all over. I don't think they were paying him much, or if anything. He was going all over doing everything. I mean, he wouldn't stop. So he was stretched out because he was trying to.
Yep.
He felt so grateful to President Trump. He really did. I mean, that was a debt he would never pay back. But he kept trying to help. But I would look at his eyes and feel so bad because he was a proud guy, and they hurt him. They took some away from him, and that was a damn shame over bullshit that they all do. You hypocrite bastards, So.
No, yeah.
There he is again.
There he is. Yeah, he's done. We're not lip readers. All right. Well, Chief, listen, it was a pleasure. It was an honor to have you on here. Everybody enjoyed it. And we'll keep in touch. We'll definitely do it.
I can't thank you guys enough. I missed the job. I miss talking to guys like you and stuff like that. And I can't thank you enough. It was an honor anytime.
No, yeah. Listen, we got the finest Unfiltered family here, so always going on. Ron and Rob are going on at 17:05, 5:05 p.m. They're going to be talking about the disgusting incident that happened in Chicago with the where ICE. What do you think about that? Before we let you go, like what are your thoughts on that? Where the police chief, the chief of patrol for Chicago, pulled this guy's away.
They're full of shit, and they should be arrested. They broke their oath. They should at least be. I'm sorry. You have a legal and a moral obligation. In some police departments, failure to give aid. Hi, Gene. How are you? Failure to give aid, you can be arrested and fired. Down in Florida here, somebody needs help and you don't. That's why they train them all EMA. You have to do everything. If you don't, you're done. Sorry, that's disgraceful. They should be. That's where you should walk off the fucking. Now, if I was a watch commander, I would have got on the radio and said, Central, have them respond, my authority. And I'll take whatever comes. Fellow cops need help. They're attacking federal facilities and cops, and this is okay? Fuck you. I'm going down swinging. I'll go down swinging on that one. I'll go down with you guys. I'm sorry. What I will say, one thing, all these guys that made these comments and stuff, that I know, they said I was a good boss and stuff. I would have had nothing that I had if it wasn't for them. They were part of every promotion I had. They believed me. They did what I asked. Some disagreed, but, we agreed to disagree and go on. They don't know with the neighborhoods that we transformed. We made people's lives better. We really did. They should be so proud of themselves. I always was very proud of them. They just did everything the way they were supposed to do it. They were so professional. They gave back to the community. They were good, regardless of race, creed, color, and all that shit. And they trusted me enough that, how much that means when somebody trusts you to do something that they really don't want to do because you're telling them it's the right thing to do. They trust you and believe in you like that. That's a pretty special thing. I never forget that stuff. So thank all of them. They were the best. I just had some good ideas. They got it done, so that was it. So, and that's it.
I appreciate it.
Anytime you guys want, and anytime Eric gets his voice back, See, you bought that cheap shit, didn't you? You bought it on eBay. That's what happens. Yeah, you got to get good stuff. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, 3 hours, great show. Everybody that donated, 16 donations. I think Tom made 12 of them. Appreciate all you guys. Crazy 10-7, Tom, George Misfoot, G2 Training. Check him out. If you're looking to get in shape, absolutely always check out the Key. If you're looking to get promoted, lieutenant, captain, sergeant, Tabitha Foster. Appreciate all you guys. And Chief, it was an honor, and we'll love to do it again. So that's it, fellas. We'll be go check out Executive Perspective tonight, 17:05.
I'll have to bang on now that I know that I can. It turns out I do have Facebook. I found it. I had it for my business. I forgot I had it, so I can see on that too, right?
Yep. And I have a link to Chief Marino's LinkedIn and wherever you're watching or listen to this. Appreciate you guys. All right, we'll be back.
Thanks,
at you.
Guys. Eric, go find your voice. Talk to you later. Bye.
Later.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?